Edina, if you want to do roll call.
That's the youngest.
Holly Anderson,
Present.
Colton Martin.
Here.
John Mayfield. Curtis Vaughn,
Here.
John Valencourt,
Here.
Bert Wright.
Brother.
Okay, has everybody had a chance to look at the agenda? Do you have one item to add, under item A, under the riparian zone? It's gonna be me doing a summary, and then Mike Nemo also has a summary he wants to read. And add that. Any other changes to the agenda?
Motion to approve the minute.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any public comment before we vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
So carried. All right, so we have time for public input. We've got 2 minutes, and I've told Bruce he could go ahead and present for longer than 2 minutes. He's following up with the Highlands Gravel Classic and giving us an update of everything that occurred in the city. Oh, sorry, we did forget its allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Okay, if you want to come up to the podium, Bruce, you can go ahead and give your presentation to us.
I know your food got here real quick.
Well, you can still eat afterwards.
Thank you. My name is Bruce Dunn, and I'm the event director for the Highlands Gravel Classic. And so, if you really liked it, I'm happy to hear all that feedback. And if you didn't, well, you know, I'm happy to hear that feedback as well. So, there's a resounding success from all accounts and on our part as far as just simple numbers. You know, the nuance is always the devil in the detail of the future. But just for a little history here, this will be the fourth edition of this event. The first 2 years we were just outside of town, and the last 2 years we've been here in Goshen at the community center, which I thought was a really good move. And last year we had 363 participants, 6 countries and 39 states. This year we had 406 participants, 8 states, 43 countries if you count the District of Columbia. What is pretty fascinating about those numbers is, yes, it's an increase, but the heavy growth is still with locally. We're getting 10 and 12 people from New York, or we're getting 16 people from Colorado, or equally so from California. And I'll send all those data. Well, 52 from Colorado, actually. Texas is always one of our second most attended states, but I do find it's kind of fascinating. Florida as well are all in our top 10 participants. And so the low-hanging fruit are our contiguous states besides Texas, which is doing very well. You know, I'm never satisfied with participants. Yes, we've done very well. 99.9% of participants are outside the Goshen zip code. And we had great feedback in our post-event survey with the riders. Certainly, they think our courses are very, very difficult. We've had 2 or 3 big events in the last couple months, and a lot of people talked about the Highlands and the qualifying, and also the welcoming nature of this community. So I always find it kind of a little bizarre that people who've never been here think that maybe we're not nice. Where did you get that impression? So that's what's special about Goshen. You make it feel like a community to people who spent lots and lots of money and time, as much as anything, to come here to qualify. But I think it's experience. So a lot of people don't come for just 2 or 3 days. several days. I see some of them arriving as many as 6 and 7 days out, and they're going to stay a few days later. So that's really exciting to hear. Can't ever do anything about the weather, and can't do much about the terrain. I would point out a couple things. One, that most of the courses happen outside of Washington County. And so Madison County is a great supporter of this event. And so if you know any folks over there that we don't talk to, that you can certainly thank them, which we continue to do and work with them. They really do help make that happen out in the hinterlands, and is a very valuable asset to this event. So from an investment standpoint, just kind of one interesting note is that All Sports Production is making a very heavy investment in this event. The sanctioning fees are 10,000 euros. So before we do anything, before we spend any money on athletes or staff or anything, we have to pay the international governing body of cycling 10,000 euros, and that's not $10,000. It's a little more. And we don't know how many participants we're going to get, but we believe in this event. It's unique. There's only about 25 or so events around the world. I think that bid fee prevents more race directors getting into this genre, and I think that's a good thing. So, we're invested, sure. And we thank Goshen for all you do. Your volunteers are great. The community's great. You continue to put the best foot forward with this great building and the property, and you allow us to come in and vape for a few days each year, and that's very appreciated for sure. So our goal is to have the event the same time next year, so that last Saturday of April. I think the dates worked out pretty well, hopefully, and I think the only thing we're looking for is to get more community involved. What is this bike event? Why should I come? And I think that's the X factor, right? We're trying to figure out how we can get the non-cyclist, whether it be in Goshen or any other surrounding communities, why should they show up on the event day or maybe the day before or the week of? Whether we do a bike drive for the kids, Pedal It Forward is our donation partner. They do a great job, and they love coming and giving bikes to the community, and y'all are very good working with them to make that happen. And that's a near and dear thing to our heart. Kids and underserved adults on bicycles makes us all better, makes them better, and it makes it a better community. So I think that's our X factor. The racing we have down. It's the community engagement we want to work on, and we never know what that is. So we're open for ideas, and we're excited about next year. And I'll just open it up for questions real quickly. Take a picture.
Bruce, I think I asked last time, the lessons learned or challenges from last year to this year?
No, really. I mean, quite frankly, we have the racing aspect of it down, right? I mean, when inside the ropes, I would call it, that's not ever our challenge. It's the ancillary things I can't control. Someone out in the hinterlands who doesn't appreciate the event, and I still haven't found anyone, which is pretty amazing, quite frankly. So that would be what I would call in the SWOT analysis. What's our threat? You can't do anything about the weather. Community, we certainly need to always make sure we're cognizant of people's driving habits, patterns. Did we happen to park in someone's driveway? Yes, we did, by the way, and we'll fix that quickly. But those are the things that kind of keep me up at night. I don't know what I don't know, but all the basics, yeah, we've got that down for sure. I mean, certainly we always want more sponsorship and more people involved. Any event does. So yeah.
I think it's great. I think I volunteered one of those Joe Martin events down in Hollywood. It's incredible to see these athletes and watch them ride.
It's sad that we don't have the Joe Martin stage race anymore, and this is the closest I get back to that competitive nature, which is exciting, all the way to somebody who's going to do their first gravel ride. The one thing we didn't do this year that we are going to do next year, we're going to add a fun ride of roughly 18 to 20 miles. that's a non-competitive event, so we hope we get more people out on their bikes. And mountain bike, gravel bike, which whatever, you don't have to dress a certain way. Certainly it will still be a challenge for some, but we do want to make that's one of the things we wanted to do this year and we're not able to execute. So weather still continues to keep us up at night a little bit too. Any other questions?
I just, I think that getting the word out, okay, is the big thing. I don't remember really seeing anything on the sites about, I knew when it was, but as far as getting it out, if you want to get the Goshen community and the county around the city proper, those people here, they need to be made aware. And I
We did
think-
have it on the Goshen website, we had it on the Goshen this and that, we had it on the Goshen Facebook site. And
But, I will tell you, quite frankly, I've done door-to-door campaigns. And I believe this might be where we get a local group of us together and we just go super old school, right? Flyer, and we don't tell the postal service we're coming around. And, and we're gonna knock on some doors. I mean, we really could do that. That's not Joe Martin State Race downtown. So, sometimes you just gotta go super old.
I'm just saying that.
Yep.
Didn't see a lot.
Sure. And I think there's, however people consume their news is completely different, right? And I think it's not one or the others, it's all, so it's good feedback. Get some young kids to jump around. We are getting the high schools and junior highs more involved with the Arkansas, initiative for volunteerism. It's not really gotten as good as we would like for us and our events, but we've made some inroads there. So we'll certainly continue to strive to do that in the Fayetteville public school system getting.
I know there's a lot going on during race day, but just a thought to throw out there, for the local kids around here. It might be really cool for, the kids to bring their bikes out here and do like a once around race. I mean, it would be thrilling. I can remember when I was a kid, the opportunity to get out there with the loudspeakers and the rush and just a short race, but then to get the finish and the loudspeakers and all that might be a good way to get kids around the area interested and the parents interested in bringing them and their kids out just to have a little short race,
Well, no good ideas are welcome, by the way. That is a great idea. I'm being facetious. It's interesting what you normally do with a road event, if not necessarily done it with a gravel event, especially this competitive. But we have, almost 3 hours of downtime. And so that's actually a very good thing to execute because we can keep them in the field. They can do a lap or two. That really is, that's easy. So I'm going to point you and I as the head committee on that case. That's something we'll do. And we do a little medal and have some real fun with that. And if there's a group that would like to, help with that really cares about kids, then that's actually an easy lift because we've got some downtime. I say that it's a good idea. Thank you. I should have thought of that.
Well, thank you, Bruce, for coming and talking with us tonight, giving some of that feedback as well.
Yeah.
And we appreciate what you've done to bring these cyclists to Goshen.
We love it, and I think this. You're getting a lot of feedback from the cycling community in Northwest Arkansas about what's going on here. So you're doing great things already, and I say continue to do that. And I'll put a report together and put it in, and send it over. And so thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to personally thank as a citizen, Cheryl and Mike Nemo. It was pretty amazing what they did to come together with the sheepdog and help the citizens of Goshen. And I'd also like to invite everybody here or up there, the Goshen Extension Homemakers are gonna host the Sheepdog Impact tomorrow between 1:45 to 2 to thank them for what they did. It sure would be nice if we had a great big sign, we could post that to the citizens of Goshen.
Thank you. Any other public input before we move on? All right, so we'll go ahead to the approval of the minutes. And I think you guys have a copy of the May 13th minutes.
Special session and
I don't think that they've been prepared.
Honestly, haven't had time to review the minutes, got them today, so if we can table them, it's up to you guys, of course, but I would be for tabling them because it's not trying to get them reviewed properly.
I'll say. I
So,
didn't have a chance to read through the whole, it's probably 20 pages.
so we have a motion and a second to table the minutes. And any public comment before we vote? All right, all those in favor? Okay. So minutes will be tabled until the next meeting. All right, and we'll go on to the financial report. Mr. Jackson, if you'd like to go ahead with the financial report.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The general fund, we actually had 1,075,4708. Of that amount, 415,000 is from the interest and the surrender of the CDs. So what we actually have for operations was 660,407, because that money has been restricted, the additional funds. Street fund, 323,403.28. 135,000 of that is basically been restricted for the covers that we have already discussed. So for operations, we have available 188,403. The police act fund, that is 10,719. Kind of a side note there that the mayor wanted me to bring up to the council was that we may call those back because we can use those for fit charges just later for some of the expenses we've had with the police department. So we may use that later as we get closer to the end of the year to see where we are. But that is the current balance there, but we may be using that. Farmers Market Fund, 490754. The HUD RDOT funds, 3,075.74. That is just mainly a holding fund for grants and things that we receive. Keep that account open because it has to have a positive balance in it. So those are just remainder funds that are just hanging out in that account from grants and things. And then we have certificate of deposits, 651,41304.
Jerry, one question on sales tax. Looks like we're.
Yes, sir. I was gonna cover that if there was any more questions on some of the material changes. Since we're doing a budget amendment proposal, so some of these things we do want to bring your attention a little bit more detail than we normally would get, just because we do have that on the table. But thank you, Bert, for noticing that. On the city sales tax and use fund, we are running 11% more than where we were at May 2024. That was a surprise to all of us. Actually, the biggest change was community building, believe it or not. We're getting a lot more usage out of there with 39% increase over just the fees for this community building from 2024, just because of the improvements that have been done to it. Actually, we almost have a waiting list for people to use it. So that's been kind of amazing to see that. The other thing that's been amazing was the franchise fees. They're up 22.5% from May of 2024. Interest income, that's going to go down because we did withdraw some funds. So we took that number down a little bit. Another one was the Washington County Treasury. We're up 14% from May of 2024. So with all of those combined, just in that one column for general administrative, we're running overall 10% ahead. Last year, at this point, May 2024, we're at 616,000. This year, we're at 684,000. So we're about $68,000 ahead. Now, in the proposed side, we only proposing increase in the budget to about 7% of that 10. The rest of it we're leaving out on the table. But for all practical purposes, more than likely, we'll probably end up with a surplus, about 145,000. So it should ease some of our concerns about some of the projects we've got going on this year. So
A big part of that, Jerry, is the CDs that you cash in.
of these increases?
No.
No, sir. No, sir. The CDs, that's been pulled out of the general fund money at all. These are just from ongoing collections, has nothing to do with the CD.
Okay.
Okay. And on the other side, that we do have a few revenue increases on the Act 998 file. That's just basically kind of an immaterial change. It was just $500 down. We just felt that we weren't getting the same type of revenue from that act, so we just reduced it $500, something immaterial. Insurance reimbursement, looks like we are gonna make a little bit of money on that. That money is included in revenue, but so are the expenses associated with that. So it doesn't look like we're gonna spend all of that. We're probably gonna spend about 13.9, and so we'll have a little bit of excess that will fall through. Not counted as revenue, it's just non-taxable money from wise use of how much coverage we had and how much actual cost came in to be. And that'll show up in your special and your capital improvements down there. I think it shows like 13,000 actually for a spend of those insurance proceeds. So we'll save about $9,000 there. Other item that was immaterial was the miscellaneous income. We had it marked at 500. Is we kind of budgeted that because it is running year to date 811. So we're above the amount that we budgeted. So we just pushed it up to 1,200 just to kind of capture that. And that's just from miscellaneous fees and things that we haven't tracked in detail yet. The step fund, no change to that at all. That's just a matter of reimbursements. So our overall revenue, I think I'm a little amazed that we're up that higher for the year with what's been going on with the economy, but it was pleasant to see.
We're not actually buying more stuff. It's just all costing more.
It's all costing more, exactly. That's exactly right. And so some of the things you're seeing reflects that, the changes that we're moving things up, particularly like buildings repair and maintenance. We've moved that from 7,500 to 13,500 because we've already spent year to date 9,582. And that has to do with just the repairs in the community building and downtown. It's just things costing more. We just can't get the same things when we put this budget together last October. Things are not the same. So we're just adjusting as we're moving forward. The building insurance was pretty much immaterial. We're at 1,458. We budget 1,800. We are done with that though, so we saved a little money there. Equipment and supplies. That was an immaterial change. We had 17. We marked it up to 18,600. And so just because, again, things cost more. Subscription and dues, our licensing fees for all of our software, accounting packages, licensing for online services, all those things have been increased too. So that's basically where we just kind of was surprised with that one being higher. Utilities have been higher because we added more cell phones for staff. And the fees have gone because we added the services for the dog maintenance department and other cell phones for staff that needed work cell phones.
Animal control and for zoning.
Right. So that's where the increase, we're budgeting that in, and we'll see how that pans out, but we did do that. Attorney fees, we have only spent $8,275. We did have you budget in at 28, we dropped it to 24. So we're hoping nothing comes up that we need to move that back up,
We'll
but
figure it out.
you'll figure something out. Yeah, you'll figure something out. Elkins court fees have been surprisingly, we've had a lot more costs concerning Elkins. Their fees have gone up, and so we're projecting this on an annualized basis, because what we're spending per quarter is actually increased. So we're estimating that we'll probably be closer to 60,000 in fees at Elkins, just because we've already spent almost 30 year to date already. And it's just not even a half year, it's 5 months. So we just thought it was prudent to go ahead and make that adjustment.
Is that
Yeah.
because they've increased costs or is it because we've got more?
I think some of it, both of it, but the majority of it,
increased their fees.
exactly, most of it.
Can they increase their fees? We have a contract. with
You can ask Sean, but I think their fees have gone. up.
Yeah, because
them.
we're
We actually have
seeing,
a signed contract with their food system.
we may want to look into that, because that's what we're spending, like, well, basically about $15,000 a quarter. Well, you know, does that come before the board before it gets signed? So what we need to probably look and see when the last time a contract was signed. So I can something I can follow up on for you guys.
Good job, Henry.
Okay, so we can follow up on that. Yeah, that's what the numbers are coming in, so we felt that we needed to try to cover that, but I will get with Sean and we'll follow up on that contract and get
Never
it.
send me a copy.
Okay, sure we will. Okay.
It's a bill of charge.
Jerry, I'm not wanting to cut you off, but I just wanted to point out this is gonna be later. Budget.
Okay,
I know we're kind of going through it, and it's up to you guys. You guys want to finish out going through it. And then when we get to new business, you guys can touch on
you want to hold or continue?
up to them.
Keep going.
Okay, all right. Workers' comp, the change there, no change, that's what the actual bill came in at, which is a little bit less, so it's immaterial. Overtime, we have marked that up because we are actually running higher there, and that has to do with, we did not account for any animal control cost in that dollar amount.
And Abby's been getting called quite often.
Yes. So, so we had to increase that just because that was an unaccounted for position that we did not know about when this budget was created. On the maintenance, we had a change there. It was 15, but there was a piece of equipment that was purchased that needs to be added to the asset listing. That was $5,926.49 for a mower that was purchased. It was purchased that way because our credit card limit is only 5,000. So we had to.
You'll see it reimbursed.
Reimbursed lots of stuff with that. But it was.
When was that purchased?
That
This
was
last month.
unit date.
No, there's. The last 3 months,
This last month,
June,
just this last month.
June 2nd. June 2nd. So that's been moved out of that classification as a expense item and put it as a capital item. Because it has to have residual value. So that number has been pushed back down. It was 24, it's 18. What you're looking at now.
Sir, capital threshold 5,000.
Pardon me?
Capital threshold 5,000.
For this type of equipment, it's probably closer to 1,500 for this. When you look at the useful life.
Right.
And so usually it's 5,000, but with this one being a little bit longer lifespan, we basically capitalize it because you could sell it and get value out of it.
And it's a DR mower. It's one that you walk behind. Some of the areas we have to mow, it's too steep to get a mower on. And so you can't get to some of the areas because of just inability. And so this one's actually one that you can actually use in that way.
zero turn on.
It's not a zero turn. It's a
No,
walk
I'm-
behind.
Zero turn on the hill. It's,
I mean, ours are really wide, but there are still places you cannot get those.
yeah,
So, and this one actually can mow up to, I think, a 3-inch sapling.
Yeah,
It's a pretty big, it's a pretty heavy duty mower.
Right.
So,
and there's one more thing that's included in that increase 18,000 is the purchase of a new trailer, 2035.
so right now, anytime we have to haul equipment, they go get my trailer at my house. I've been willing to do that, but I think it's time we finally get our own trailer.
Why did we sell the one that we had?
Because that one wasn't wide enough to accommodate our mowers. You couldn't get a mower on it. It wasn't wide enough. That's a good reason.
There, are we any concerns about our auto insurance with the Rexon there?
We actually talked about that, with the yesterday. That we probably need to pursue some of that, as we probably need to look at some of the, coverages that we had. So that is something on the agenda to look at. I think,
So far, they haven't gone up at all. I mean, ours is through municipal league. They haven't notified us of anything, haven't said they're gonna go up. I'm just,
There is deductibles in.
well, another, if we looked at one point, because the question was, it's all of our equipment insurance also.
that was the other question.
That was the other question, and I haven't got an answer yet on whether our equipment is insured or not, because we are accumulating quite some valuable pieces of equipment. That'll happen to that, we need to be in a way to recover some costs.
I know we have our bucket truck is insured, but as far as like the mowers, they're not insured. So, and I don't know that municipal league offers insurance for those. We can ask if you guys would like us to.
Probably just more.
I think we should, if
Generally.
required. It's not so much just from a liability point of view.
And there's something else I would like to disclose to the council as well. We're gonna have to replace an engine on the new mower. So there was an exhaust coupling that came loose and dirt got down in the engine. It's not covered by our warranty because it wasn't recognized that it was not attached and then ended up sucking dirt down in the engine. So I actually went up to WT because when I was told that it was not covered under warranty, I wanted to go see it and say why.
Yeah.
So, and the way that mower is designed, the exhaust comes right down at the very back. So it looks like someone probably backed up against something, didn't realize it, opened it up, and then at that point, dirt starts sucking in here. We have created a checklist. They now, before they ever get on any equipment, they go through the checklist. That's one of the things they have to check now off each time. So, and they've been, checking the oil, and doing a general inspection, but that would be something that would be easy to miss, but it will not be missed again. So. Yeah, I mean, that specific one, I actually have two of these similar mowers at my house. I went and looked and mine's designed different. It's harder to get to not get loose. So, yeah, it is.
So that's where we are with that. Unless anybody has any questions. And then the public relations, we moved that up because we are currently doing more outreach on city events, publishing websites. Mayor and I got together a couple of weeks ago about hiring someone. I'm looking at the cost on hiring someone to redo our website, make it a little bit more user friendly, a little bit more navigating easier and more update. Right now, current staff is trying to do that, and it's not working out. They're just
Well,
for one, expertise is not there, and they do the best they can, but it does need to be have some work done on it. So we're looking at other websites like Johnson, Tiny Town, and I actually have a meeting with one of their IT people that's going to be looking at ours to kind of model it and flow it because it's a very, really nice flow. So that's where some of this is increasing. We may have some public relations costs associated with that. So.
On the trailer note, before I forget, you may want to check into, it's called Load It and Go Trailers. That's between Harrison and Branson in that area. But they are hundreds of dollars cheaper than trailers that you find around here for an equipment trailer.
I actually found an awesome trailer in Avoca, and that's the one that they use all the time. It's mine. I found it for $2,700, and that's been, 4 or 5 years ago. But they seem to be really good as far as prices. And I'm hopeful that I can find one that's going to be between $3,000 and $3,500. I think I probably will be able
You may want
to.
to check Load and Go.
I will. I'll check. I'm going to check a bunch of places.
But anyway, I just want to make mention, it's not super advertised, but they're out there.
What's the name?
Load and go.
Load, LOAD, and then an N and go.
Thank you. Okay, publication. And then we have capital expenditures, and I promise guys, we're almost finished. Animal control equipment, You notice that we had budgeted 6,000. We found that, not enough with, improvements that we were having to do, retrofitting out the vehicles and additional equipment for, that project. So we've asked, increase that budget to 12 from 6. We've already spent, basically 3, and we do know that we have additional expenses and quotes for about 8,000 right now.
And we're gonna have to retrofit the truck to make it an animal control
Exactly.
vehicle. Once we get the truck from the police department, that will be their animal control vehicle.
The other item there, that was the biggest item, was the City Hall and Millbridge Park irrigation. That cost has gone up just from, when we budgeted this out, we did 10,000 for basically labor, most of it's gonna be labor. We didn't know the cost of the meters yet from Fayetteville, because they wouldn't give them to us.
And RPZs and
Yeah, they wouldn't give them
the
to us.
plumbing fees, because you have to have the plumber there to hook it up, and they have to have 2 meters, not 1, because there's a irrigation meter, and then there's also, the water meter that's gonna be for the future pavilion and future bathrooms, so there's actually 4 meters, not just 2, even though there's 2 faucets. Fayetteville requires it,
Don't try to make sense out of the table. So
and you have to pay for each meter, and then you have to pay for the inspection after they put it in, I mean,
And then the impact fee.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I had no idea that it would be that expensive for just,
I think I mentioned something.
Yes.
Yeah.
but I really had no
Enough to
idea.
change for-
Right, so
So,
hopefully we're covering all of our.
well, that's paid, so the irrigation's done.
costs there, so they're paid here. Um,
Municipality, yeah,
But,
whatever.
I mean, I can see it if you're on sewer. It's just, if you,
I can tell you that the irrigation fee is less than the regular meter fee. So the water is, they charge us less for that meter than they do for the regular meter. I don't know why, that's part of it.
I guess we only have, the other item is park improvements. We've budgeted 50, we're looking at increasing that to 65, just because we had some increase on it. The maintenance cost of the park, I think I brought that up in the last meeting, that we are experiencing, higher costs with the park because we only have 2 people. And we're trying to associate all those costs with the park that's costly. So, having volunteers there is like paramount, because we are having additional costs just maintaining the park, particularly with the weather we've been having, lately. So, that's gonna be an ongoing cost of the park probably. So we're gonna look at that a little bit closer, but budget for park maintenance coming up in October, present the budget for 6. Police department unit outfit, that number's come down because of the insurance proceeds. After the side, you see that 13,000, that's usually what we're gonna be spending, we got 21. So that's where that number's coming down, that insurance money is included in that down revision of what we needed, so that was a plus on our side. So all of these things in capital expenditures have already been approved, so there's the stuff that is ongoing that we're completing now for 2025. Any questions on that section
how much is an uplift?
for me?
The outfit on the vehicles, Jason, how much is it?
Depends on what all you put on.
How much is it for the ones we just bought?
So it should be on that stuff. I don't remember. It was. I won't say it was right at 15,000.
For the whole outfit?
For the, not for, that's for the outfit from the dealership. That's your lights, all that stuff hooked up. That doesn't include your radio, your camera system, or any of that.
By the time everything's all said and done.
By the time it's all said and done, will probably be
Right?
probably roughly about, I'd say 18,000 by the time it's all said and done.
Plus the striping. Plus striping.
So
Another. How much was it for your reflective stripe?
$1,600 was total.
So something like
something
that.
like that. So,
The non-reflective was like 700.
no, it was,
Or
1,200. 1,200 for the non-reflective and then 1,600 for the reflective. I have a question about the Act 988 funds. Can we use any of that for some of the upfit?
Possibly, I'll have to check. The Act 98 is very, it literally said we're immediately, I don't know, I don't know if it's, I don't know if we can use it for switching equipment, or if it has to be brand new. Well, I have to figure that out.
All right, okay, so we can find out.
We'll find out.
Maybe we can apply something.
I mean, I don't see the shop anywhere on here.
It's at the bottom.
It's
It's gonna be at the very bottom.
It's on the side.
Yeah.
All right.
So if you look at the very last page, it'll
The
be.
reason that Paul's not there because it hasn't been approved yet, and we haven't even got all of it.
Yeah,
So, that's why we just- yeah.
we'll see what the bids look like tonight.
So that's what that is. Auto insurance, like Greg was saying here, we're just tracking that at exactly what we're spending right now. We spent 41.94, we had 38, so you can see we're spending more. So we're just gonna kind of see where that goes and see what we need to budget that out. I anticipate probably see more. If we get everything included, which I think we should. Maintenance costs, a lot of that's coming from just the aging of the vehicles. I think we talk about vehicles almost every meeting now. With something going wrong with them, whether they're being total or something. So it's just the aging of the vehicle and then just the usage. So we're just having additional repair costs with there. So as we get new vehicles online, that should go down actually. So. But it's normal. Equipment supplies, that's just an adjustment to actual. This is basically what we're spending. That number is 12,000. We had 12, no change there. Fuel, that number's come down just because food prices have been downward. So we're not spending as much. So that's why we've adjusted that down for the remainder of the year. Subscription dues on the police department is immaterial cost adjustment, it's $500. So believe that is it, except for the outstanding expenditures and accrual items following. In the shop building, we basically put in the same amount that we had allocated from the CD fund for that building. Just kind of let you guys know what the bid is, come in would be, and what we actually have available to spend. But part of this, going through this now before we open the bids and you guys look at this, to kind of give you an idea that we will most likely have an excess. Right now, this year, an excess of about 20, what is it? The new total excess for the year 2,300. But if we stay on the same course, our projections, we should actually be close to about 135. And we'll be monitoring that pretty closely just to make sure we stay there. But we've got probably room to maneuver.
I do what to say.
Exactly. So.
I think it's very well done. Motion of the general fund budget.
Wait, we need to approve the financial report first.
Yes,
That's all you need to do, right? Yeah.
Yeah, motion to approve the financial report.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any public comment before we go? All those in favor? One little update, Kashana said that the salaries in IT have caused the contract prices to go up and that it wasn't specified in the contract that it wouldn't be able to go up when those went up. And I asked her to send a copy of the contract to you, Brian.
Good.
So we'll look at it. So, but that was the reason why the court fees were more.
Thank you, Jerry.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you, Jerry. And we'll vote on that when we get to new business. So continuing on, words, or Chief Travis.
PD report.
For the month of May, we had 229 calls for service. We had 40 total charges, 0 city ordinance violations, 10 criminal citations, 5 PCS PDP, 2 warrants, 30 moving violations, and 66 citations. In your packet, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I threw a cool little graph on there for you guys. It's actually kind of interesting just to look at it. It's time of day that traffic stops are made, days of the month, document type, and then days of the week. So as you can tell, if anybody tries to say that we're a speed trap, all you have to do is look at this graph that shows warning versus citations. So
I just wanted to know when you follow it, does it sound quick?
We gonna go chasing?
No, I wanted to watch them.
that was an interesting. Here's a moped. So yeah, good time.
He had everybody out here for that. He didn't tell us.
So just a heads up, we may have somebody thinking about retirement. So we might be looking for somebody at some point. But I won't name any names or anything, but done my time.
Several times.
Any questions?
Hey, Chief, I got
Yes.
just one question, and I don't have any details. I was, a Goshen resident, I don't know if this is true or not, you would say that, we're sitting in the ditch next to where the veterinary clinic's gonna be, like, down in the ditch and run radar. Is that a true statement?
I don't know about that one. I'll have to check into it.
That's all
I
I
heard
heard.
that.
Thank you.
What was it?
Where's the?
They were sitting in the
Right there
ditch.
across from.
By the veterinary, when the veterinary place, like,
Across from.
down in the ditch hiding. Right.
Are they actually in the ditch or in
I was told the ditch. I don't know if it's true. That's what I was told.
It's possible. As long as they're not tearing it up.
I don't care about tearing it up.
So, I don't know.
Haven't seen it.
Fine.
Is this daytime or nighttime?
That's all the details I have, Chief.
All right, thank you, Chief Travis. We'll move on to the infrastructure facilities report. I'll pull it up for you guys. So it's prepared by Dave and Ivan. Planted 6 trees and over 70 shrubs along the creek at the North Park entrance. Added rocks to the mud area. There's some puddles of mud and part of the little stream crossing there below the spring house that we put chocolate rock on. Added and spread mulch around the trees in the south entrance of the park as well as here at the community building. Removed fallen trees from roads after the storm. Installed street signs at Haverton, West Bowen, Mill Lane, Goshen Tuttle. You guys seen all the trees that have been down? They've been busy. Expanding parking lot of the community building. So we're trying to add a little extra space behind the area where the playground is so that the cyclists will start parking there. We have added some signs here at the community building just to kind of let them know. That way, if there's an event like EHC, that we don't have 20 people out here parking with their bikes and their vehicles, and it's impairing people being able to use the community building. Same thing when you rent it. I've had people call me and say, where do we park? There's all these cyclists parked here. So we're trying to identify that they need to go down there. So we've gotten signs up and adding gravel back there. And then replace the bicycle pump, which broke behind here. Seal the privacy fence. These are future projects. They still need to seal that privacy fence on the south entrance. It does have to cure, but it's fine. As soon as it quits raining enough and dries out, they can go ahead and get it sealed. We bought the stain for it.
So August,
Yeah, at this point, probably. Continue installing new street signs for all the streets. Install a welcoming stone at the park entrance. It's been down there. The stone is down there laying flat. We're waiting for Larry Mays to get it put in there. The 2 other big rocks anchored into the spot where it goes. So it is back from the engraving place, finally, after months and months of waiting.
After 8 months.
Yep. And then patch potholes for city streets. Again, they have a difficult time patching potholes when it's wet, and it's been wet most of the time. So clean the concrete on Oxford Bend Bridge and Blue Springs. They do that so that it helps to prevent any corrosion of the metal in the bridge, and that preserves the life of the bridge. So they do seal coat that every year. And then coordinate striping on Blue Springs and Hale. So we are going to end up getting, some of the roads restriped. So it's not just Blue Springs and Hale, it's Blue Springs, Goshen Tuttle, Fire Tower and Hale. So those all need to be striped. And removal of you can see this is actually not Fire Tower, this is on Goshen Tuttle. This was in front of the old Ferguson house there. There were actually 2 trees that came down across the road there. And thank you to our police department for being there early and helping there and Blue Springs. I was working at the hospital and got called that night. So, but the guys got out here on Sunday and started sawing up the tree limbs. So,
It was a mess.
yeah. And this is one of the new signs they put up at Haberton and Westmoreland. All right, any questions?
You need to tell them that they need to change the street sign that they put up.
Where?
Salisbury Lane. Salisbury Drive, whatever you call it.
Are you talking about Nemo Lane?
That's not Nemo.
It is Nemo Lane.
We
It
changed
only changed to Salisbury as you get to the corner. So it makes a left-hand turn at the very back of that lane, and that is Salisbury Lane back there. Because Salisbury Lane was closed, they vacated that road. It's been years ago.
Been a while.
Well, you changed where Max put in, that used to be dirt going up to your house or grass. And Max went down there with the tractor and made that road to going up to your house, correct?
It was a city street. It just wasn't maintained.
It was South
He
Church
went
Street.
in and they towed a vehicle that was sitting in the middle of the street in front of the 163 Salisbury, the house that I tore down for the city. And there was a car sitting there and they towed that away and they basically just put some gravel down over the grass that had been allowed to grow up over the years, but it was a city street prior to that.
It was South.
It was South Church Street.
South Church.
Yeah. Yes.
You asked Max to change the name to Nemo Lane, which in fact he
We-
did.
We came to the city council and asked the city council to change
Well, I
it,
mean,
not
that
Max.
was.
Yeah.
Whenever.
Yes, yes, that's how it went down.
Salisbury Lane, Salisbury Drive came in from Tuttle up and Nemo Lane off from Salisbury up to.
No, at the time that they changed it, Salisbury was vacated.
I think the vacation
No.
happened after
They vacated,
Nemo Lane.
they vacated,
Of the whole, so all of that was vacated afterwards.
I think we did Nemo Lane and then I think that we vacated the
from the gate.
gate or
That was it.
Street sign is correct though.
No, it says Nemo.
It is Nemo Lane.
I mean, no, that is correct.
Yes,
You better go check because,
that's what's registered at the Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning.
no, it's not.
Okay.
You go look
We
at
can-
Washington County and it says,
Washington County may not be updated. Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning should be. So that's what we have on our master street plan. So, I mean, I hope that's
That's
correct.
what dispatch regularly does.
That's what's important.
Catch them.
okay,
Somebody has to update it then because we don't.
no. 911 is the one. You need to.
All right, can we move on to the Goshen Fire District report? I'll pull it up. Yeah. So it looks like we had a total of 58 calls. And we continue to have the rescue and emergency medical services. That's 26 is the highest. There were 7, it's like 7 counts for fires, building fire, off-road vehicle or heavy equipment fire, brush, grass fire mix. So it looks like there was 5 building fires. That's quite high. Do you know if that was related to the storms? Yeah. right, any questions about it? To the planning commission report, don't really think there was no activity on planning commission fees. And then just as a FYI, as of August, we will not be really doing anything in the planning area, secondary to the legislative session, Act 315. So it's going to be something that, and that one of the reasons we decreased our amount of income from these for the year. Building inspection report, JD's on vacation. So it looks like all of his building inspections did pass. If you look at the list of types of permits that were issued.
Mayor, I'd like to just thank JD and Lacey. Got several funded office stuff we didn't know was going on, so thank you. Legal permits, but
Thank you. Yeah, that's good to hear. Yep. Yeah, they really do a great job. JD, I mean, he'll show up a second. We had some problems with the trash on Blue Springs. JD showed up and took care of it right away. So. All right, the next is gonna be the park and recreation report. I think Mike is delivering the park and recreation report. Tonight.
So Danielle was not able to, she's out of town and wasn't able to get back in town, so she asked me to go ahead and do the parks report. At last month's city council meeting, the Parks Commission was directed to provide recommendations for the management of Mill Branch Park. Accordingly, the following was approved by a unanimous vote at last Parks Commission meeting held on May 27th. A, the planting of non-native vegetation is not prohibited so long as it does not pose a foreseeable risk of becoming invasive. B, Parks Commission recommends that we support the preference of native vegetation, that is, native to Northwest Arkansas, including the Ozark region, when considering any future planting. C, the Parks Commission recognizes the need to help prevent streamside erosion and to plan for streamside management. We would recommend that in general, a 15 to 25 foot buffer should ideally be preserved along the stream bank. This does not mean that this area cannot be managed in a way that promotes approved access points along the creek or future improved steps to mitigate erosion and promote healthy stream ecology. D, the Parks Commission recognizes the importance of riparian zones and desires to allow use of riparian zones at Mill Branch Park for public access and enjoyment. This can be accomplished through collaboration with the Arbor Board and city staff. E, the comprehensive management plan that was provided by the Beaver Watershed Alliance for the city of Goshen will continue to be utilized as a best practices, quote unquote, document for guidance on the park's ongoing development and maintenance. Again, these are the unanimous recommendations of the Parks Commission, and we would encourage the city council to agree to this in order that trail maintenance and other improvements in the park, which has been stopped by order of the city council, can resume immediately. And it's very overgrown there right now. Next item, a citizen contingent along with city officials, Arbor Board, and Parks Commission members met at Mill Branch Park on Friday, May 23rd, to discuss grievances being brought forward about streamside management. The group included Nate Weston, a recognized expert in this area. The meeting started off quite contentious, but after some neutral input from Mr. Weston, which seemed to diffuse the situation, it appeared to yield some positive results toward the end of the park walk, the walkthrough, and a possible path forward towards some compromise. So that was positive. The Parks Commission would ask that the City Council support the nomination of Day Crown to the Parks Commission. We are excited to welcome Day, who brings excellent horticulture credentials and a pragmatic approach to park development. Her dedication to the job has already been demonstrated in her willingness to not only attend recent Parks meetings, but also to show up as a non-voting participant in the discussions at those meetings. At the recent field trip mentioned earlier, Day took time to join us and offer her insight, despite being rudely talked down to by one of the private citizens in attendance regarding her right, also as a private citizen, to speak about the issues at hand. Yet she was unperturbed and continued with the group in our collective task of collecting seed ticks and sugars on our walkthrough that day. So again, please support this nomination. And it's already been mentioned, but after a long wait, the new stone sign marking the north entrance Mill Branch has been delivered. And as of yesterday, is awaiting installation. And if you haven't seen it, it looks great. Also mentioned earlier, trees and bushes were planted by city staff and volunteers along the stream side of Mill Branch on May 21st and 22nd. In total, about 75 plantings were done. Unfortunately, an undetermined number of the bushes were destroyed by the unprecedented flooding that occurred a few days ago. A full assessment of the damage will be done soon. I'd also like to note that work was done by volunteers and city staff on the rain garden outside here, using equipment donated by the mayor to facilitate the removal and relocation of the tree that was formerly growing under the power lines in that area right over here. The fate of that tree is yet to be seen, but by replanting, it was given a chance at survival rather than cutting it down. It was placed where the dying cedar tree near the playground was removed. So that tree's been removed and that was planted there. We'll see if it survives. And of course, the mayor has already spoken to some of this, but will also speak on the status grants on the paved trail and bridge building and the new pavilion. And I don't really have all that information, so I know that's on the agenda to speak
So
about.
we, I can speak to the pavilion and the RDOT trail. As soon as we sign the contract, it can move forward. I think we're ready to go forward with that tonight. But the pavilion that we are looking to build, we were working with a company. Arkansas State Park requires us to come up with an engineered drawing and design of each pavilion, which we've worked with a company out of Kansas City that's been helping with that. We finally got our drawings and everything back. It's not exactly right. They still got some things wrong, even though I've talked to them probably 5 times. They put the fireplace in the wrong place, but I'll get back on the phone with them again, get it put in the right place. But the cost on it was substantially more than what they initially had come in with their proposal. We can still use the drawing. We can send it out for bid and see if we can get it at a lower price as far as whoever else bids on it. And I think we can. I think we can still get it in that, $300,000 range, somewhere in there. So I think that it's still doable. But I think that right now, we're just waiting on the finished design work for that. And then we can put it out for bid. So and that's it. Then we just follow up with the state. Once we follow up with the state and when we put it out for bid, then that's when we get the money from the state for the project. Any other questions on it?
Just a comment, Mike. Thank you for getting the group together. I know that was you and the part of cleanup, so I appreciate that. I think the recommendations are sound, and I support those.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Anything else? Thank you.
So we didn't go over the revised maintenance plan. I think it's in the packet under old business. Is that something that we want Mike to go over now, or do we want to wait and do that at the old business?
Old business.
Old business, okay, all right. So I guess we can move on to old business if you guys are comfortable with that. Old business A, riparian management follow-up. Mike pretty much talked to what I was going to say about the riparian area. There was a lot of discussion had that didn't include me, didn't include our city staff, that a lot of assumptions were made, and there were even assumptions made on the Friday that we showed up to meet with the concerned citizens who had brought the expert. to walk through with us. I found the expert to be wonderful. I mean, I thought he was very helpful in pointing out things that I think we could benefit from. But there were even accusations that night that started off the meeting of accusing us of planting all these non-native plants. And I simply said, that's just not accurate. And I couldn't pull it up on my phone, and I had Abby bring me the receipt from White River and say, okay, take a look at it. We knew we had purchased one non-native tree, and it is a corkscrew willow tree that is one of the trees that survived that flood rather well down there. But that was the only non-native tree that was planted. The rest of the entire vegetation was all native. So just for reference, and so after we showed that to Nate, the receipt, he did go through it, and he's a geospatial ecologist is his title. He helped write our comprehensive management plan. So he was one of the authors on that document. So just to give a reference as to his expertise and where he's coming from, that's where his expertise is from. So, and his walkthrough with us, looking at the riparian area, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but I did not feel like he at any point said what we had done was inappropriate. From what I understood was that, yes, you do have to mow at times, usually once or twice a year is what's recommended. That not to mow regularly, because if you mow regularly, then you can disrupt some of the plants that you're trying to propagate in those areas. So this year has been, as you guys all know, a very unusual year for just flooding and water events. This recent event, I don't think any of us could have foreseen, and I've had lots of complaints through the city about culverts being overrun and street flooding and things that normally don't flood. So I don't think there's any way we could have, thought that this would happen in June and we would lose, 20 of the 70 plants that we planted down at the park. So, but that's probably about how many we lost.
All you gotta do is look at those two rivers. The thing is still high.
I know. That's a result of the dam.
I
Why they're so
understand,
high.
but it's still,
But yes,
still very high. And
but I do think that it was a huge benefit for all of us at the meeting on that Friday, because I think that everybody was able to come to a resolution of that it's okay for us to manage the riparian zone the way that we've been managing it, going in, trying to plant native vegetation, plant native seeds. I think that Nate was very helpful in looking at some of the trees that needed to come out in the area, even trees that I think we didn't realize needed to come out. A lot of the box elders that are there are actually causing worse erosion because they don't allow any of the native grasses that would normally grow to grow in that area any longer. And so it causes, increased problems with erosion and flooding. So I think there were some great lessons learned. We identified several points of access along the creek. Everybody was in agreement on those points of access and how we put those in. We're going to order signs that say access point, and we're going to mark those so people know that's the area where they can go down and get into the creek. I would say that after walking the creek yesterday with Mike, we have an erosion problem on our main trail going in, and that's going to have to get repaired. I mean, it's going to take away that entire trail there if we let it. So we're going to have to manage that. And I don't know what the best way is. I plan on using the resources with Beaver Watershed Alliance and some of the streamside management places that are they do this work. And for those of you that were there, Linda was there at a workshop that we went to this past Thursday on riparian zones and erosion and what it looks like and what the risks are to the streams. And so I've made some great contact with those people that are running those programs, and hopefully they'll be able to help us with some of this as well.
Jerry, just a comment for your budget.
Yes, sir.
Ken and Mary did a great job behind water for trying to do this years ago. They try to put, I think it's called veins, they try to put in to divert is, I can't remember what the quote was, but it's astronomical to do it to that level.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And even Nate, the walkthrough with the worst area of erosion, it's about a 10 to 12 foot bank that's eroded. When I asked him what it would cost to fix that, he said upwards of $100,000 on one area of the bank. That's not including just some of the other erosion. I do think that there is the ability with some of the equipment that I have And with some volunteers, I think that we can fix that area that's eroding on that bank along where that crossing is. We have a place that we can purchase rocks. We can purchase those at a cheaper rate. We'll have to get a permit from, the Corps of Engineers to do the work, but I think if we had a design and showed them the design, I think that they would probably approve that. We could do it cheaper than hiring a company to come in and do it. So we'll see. I mean, I'm always trying to think of budget-conscious things and how to do it in a way that is going to get the same result but cost a lot less money. So.
Even Watershed did the one behind Waterford.
No, I know, and there's grants, and that's the other thing is that the nice thing is through going to these workshops at the invasive plant removal class, as well as the riparian meeting that we had this last week, working with those agencies, I've gotten to know them a lot better, and I think we've got a better inroad with them on getting grants for that kind of a thing. But we also have to think about we're low on the totem pole when it comes to the amount of soil that's going down the river from our little creek versus even Richland, if you look at Richland. So those are things that they look at as far as where that grant money is going to go. So there's things for us to be cognizant of is that we may not get a large grant for something like this. So that doesn't mean we don't need to make this a priority and do the work. It just means that we may have to try to do it where it's not so, costly. I think that's all I have on the riparian zone. I think, Mike, if you want to go ahead with your statement to the council now.
I do have a statement. Thank you for allowing me to speak for a few minutes. I'm reading a prepared statement today because I'm not the greatest public speaker, and I tend to ramble, and I'll get right to the point. At last month's city council meeting, I was directly attacked by a member of the council regarding work that was being done at Gilbride Park during the city cleanup project on May 3rd. The accusation was that I was intentionally subverting the directive of city council by removing vegetation from the riparian zone near the creek. I want to point a few things out in answer to that. First, the work we were doing was in accordance with the plan that was previously laid out and was directed by the mayor, that being the removal of deadfall tree debris. The chainsaws used by the mayor and I were primarily to cut up larger dead material to facilitate easier loading into the trailer, generously being donated by Andrew Eden. Was there a small amount of living material removed to allow access to the deadfall? Yes. A small number of sapling suckers from larger trees were taken where they interfered with the removal of the deadfall, but nothing consequential. Second, while not pointed out by my accuser or anyone else, I was working shoulder to shoulder with a member of this city council, 2 members of the Arbor Board, one of whom is the chairman, and the chairperson of the Parks and Recreation Commission, none of whom expressed any objection whatsoever to the work that was being done. Curiously, the councilman who found this activity to be so wrong decided to address this with the mayor, but not directly with me, after, I'm told, being asked to do so by the mayor. Instead, he took long-distance photos as supposed evidence of wrongdoing before going to his vehicle and leaving without lifting a finger to help with any of the actual work being done. Well, I don't know about you, but this tells me everything I need to know about the lack of fortitude, leadership, and character that Councilman Martin possesses. I'm sorry to say I am one of his constituents and hope to help change that with my vote in the next election, or possibly through other lawful means available to the citizens of this town prior to then. I no longer have confidence that he represents the interests of this community, but I digress. When I walked out on the meeting last month, to my regret, I made an unfortunate statement that probably only a few citizens heard, which was, "You win." This is regrettable because after thinking about it, this whole controversy with the park had been reduced to a competition where there seemed to be winners and losers. And if we allow that kind of thinking to prevail, we will all lose. So tonight, I retract that statement. While I'm a member of the Parks Commission, my primary goal, as I stated from the get-go, has been my excitement to volunteer my time, equipment, and energy to improving the park for the citizens of Goshen and the surrounding area. I have never claimed to possess the book learning that some folks around here tout as their reasoning for louder voice about what should be done in that park. But in the nearly 40 years I have lived in Goshen, I have carved out 2 homes from these woods around here. Not with heavy equipment, but primarily by hand, selectively and lovingly removing undergrowth to rejuvenate and enhance the landscape. Doing so did not cause permanent damage to the vegetation, inhibit pollinators, or biological diversity in any way. Just the opposite. And anyone who doubts this has an open invitation to come up to my place and see for yourself. So to accuse me of malicious intent in our park, Alderman Martin, is not only insulting, but is downright wrong. Finally, because of our apparent inability to compromise on the balance of what is seen as good stewardship to nature and the promise made by the city to provide welcoming recreational opportunities to the public, we seem to have decided that moratoriums, rulemaking, and ordinances that restrict responsible development in the park seem to be the way to go. Well, I would submit that we already have everything we need in place. The citizens of Goshen, in their collective wisdom, elected a mayor who over the last 2 years or thereabouts has proven his dedication to the job and spirit of volunteerism doesn't just stop with the asking of others, but extends to his own time, sweat, and personal resources to carry out an intelligent and responsible vision for the park that not only accomplishes the goals previously mentioned, but also complies with the master plan and the comprehensive maintenance plan. I would challenge anyone to prove where Mayor Stroud has done otherwise. This is true leadership. This is what I respect and gives me my trust. We are so fortunate. But this is his job, not that of the city council. And we should be trusting him to do it. If he doesn't, we should all hold him accountable as we would any elected official. But may I also point out that this applies equally to members of the city council as well. Make no mistake, the citizens of Goshen are watching. Look, I would think that it would be in the best interest of the city council to encourage volunteering in the park to offset some costs and encourage community involvement. But if this kind of backbiting and bullying over every detail to do with judgment calls in the park persists, then I hope the council is prepared to allocate substantial funds towards park maintenance personnel. Because if the status quo persists, it will serve only as demoralizing to potential volunteers and will result in no interest in contributing whatsoever to the development or maintenance of our park. So please consider carefully before regulating our park and our potential volunteers out of existence. We have an opportunity here to work together with direct and respectful communication and a spirit of cooperation that can accomplish collective goals to bring to life a beautiful, accessible, and yes, conservation-friendly park that citizens from all walks of life and interests can enjoy and will want to visit. This will be accomplished not through condescension and preaching a single-minded point of view, but through mutual respect, understanding, and the trust that we all have good intentions. Will mistakes be made along the way? Of course. But by any of us interested enough to give of our time and effort. But for heaven's sake, let's cut each other a break and understand the difference between an occasional misstep and malicious intent. This is the path to a successful outcome, not through needless regulation that only serves to stifle progress and community involvement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. comment from the council, or can we move on?
Yes.
Okay. So, moving on to the resolution approving Mill Branch Park Master Plan.
This is our third reading of this, isn't it?
Well, there's two things. You want to talk about it?
Yes, we're up for a third reading of the ordinance that establishes the process. And when I was asked to draft the resolution, I was not aware where we are on the ordinance. I think the resolution's premature. I think we need to read and adopt, if we're going to, the ordinance, which then directs you all to approve of the master plan by resolution, which would have to be done at a later date.
Isn't it the third reading tonight?
It's third reading, but the ordinance will not take effect until 90 days.
Oh, 90 days, okay.
But, so I would say table the resolution. Let's address the ordinance.
I'll make a motion to table. Resolution approving the Mill Branch Park Master Plan.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any public comment before we vote? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so carried. All right, so now we're doing the Parks Master Plan ordinance. We'll read it for the third time. All right,
So third reading.
third reading.
That's correct.
Point of clarification.
Sorry?
Point of clarification. So the recommendations from the Parks and Recreation Committee on the riparian zone, that falls into what?
So it doesn't really fall into anything other than that's their recommendation. So one of the things that came up at our walkthrough, that was a question from Ken, and he came to me and said, where have these things been decided by the Parks Commission? And I said, well, the Parks Commission has discussed these things, but I don't know that it's written anywhere. So that was one of the reasons why they decided that they wanted to have that written as where they stand on what they support. And so I don't know, Brian, if there's anything that we need to do.
Well,
Do we need to put
I mean,
that in?
it would need to be, I think, part of the master plan, if that's what.
That's what I'm,
We can add that to the master
I
plan.
mean,
but we
obviously,
would have to
anything that
revise
comes
it.
from the Parks Commission is merely a recommendation to you all, but the master plan is coming to you all as recommended by the Parks Commission. If that is some directive that they want included, it needs to go in the master plan.
Abby, so we can add those items to the master plan? Just make a note.
Which we're not here tonight to adopt the master plan,
Understood.
so that can be
Understood. I just-
Yeah.
They
amended.
made a unanimous recommendation. This is exactly what we asked them to do 2 months ago.
It is.
So I just want to make sure we.
It needs to go there.
I think that we need to probably accept the recommendations and then lift the pause that we did, though.
That's what I tried to recommend yesterday.
I think we need to do that.
We need something, because
Yeah.
we can't mow until you
So I would make
guys.
a motion to rescind the pause, accept the recommendations of the Parks and Recreation Committee, and then at a later date, put that in the master plan.
I'll second.
second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any public comment before we vote?
What do you want in second? Who?
Who's second?
Colton second first.
I did.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so carried. All right. So we can get back to mowing. There's a lot of it to do. All right. So now we'll read the ordinance and we'll add that to the master plan. So,
Can I ask a question? If you add that to the master plan, do you have to start over your readings again? Or just?
No,
Okay.
no.
Make a motion to read in title only
For the third
for
reading.
the third reading.
Second.
with a motion and a second, any public comment before we do a roll call vote? All right, roll call vote.
Colleen Anderson?
Yes.
Colton Martin?
Yes.
Curtis Vaughn?
Yes.
John Valencourt?
Yes.
Rick Ray?
Yes.
An ordinance establishing the process for adopting the master plan for parks in the city of Goshen and for amending said master plan.
Okay,
Motion to approve.
Second.
so a motion and a second to approve. Any public comment before we do a roll call vote?
Oh.
Yeah, and then y'all need to move to adopt it.
Motion to
If you're ready.
approve the reading.
Yeah.
got that, Gina?
Yep.
Okay. Roll call vote?
Holly Anderson? Yes. Colton Martin?
Yes.
Curtis Vaughn?
Yes.
John Davenport?
Yes.
Bert Wright?
Yes.
Make a motion to adopt?
Second.
So we have a motion to adopt in a second. Any public comment before roll call vote? All right, roll call vote.
Holly Anderson?
Yes.
Colton Martin?
Yes.
Curtis Vaughn?
Yes.
John Davenport?
Yes.
Bert Wright?
Yes.
Okay. So adopted. All right, now we can move on to the next item on the agenda. The Mill Branch Park Maintenance Plan that was revised. Let me pull it up.
Russell,
Uh-huh.
I revised from which?
So there was an original one that was created in 2022 that
Okay.
was adopted by council and has been the working document that we've been working with since 2022. There has been no revisions until now. This is the first revision of that document.
Okay. I wasn't sure because we had gotten one. Is that,
I think this is the only version of that you've gotten.
So are we turning,
Version of that you've gotten.
so are we turning that mini page document into this, or are we adding this to that maintenance plan that was already established?
No, this is the maintenance
This is the
plan.
maintenance plan.
And we've shortened it some.
Okay, that's what I was,
And, we've taken out some of the stuff that was just kind of fluff, and just gotten right to the maintenance. Mhm. And there's still some of it that, some of this is really there because it's needed if we're going to apply for grants. It's something that we can utilize to show how we're going to maintain the park. It's not necessarily something that we're going to actually do every single week. Some of these things that are, the park commissioner's going to walk the grounds every single week and identify every single place on the trail that might need something fixed. I think they walk the park a lot. And, our staff goes through the park every week, so I think it'd be hard for us to miss anything major. So,
So you need a motion to adopt a revised plan?
yes.
So moved.
second?
All right. So a motion and a second. Any public comment before they vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so carried.
Very good. And that's fine. And this is, I guess, Mayor, this is more for you. If it makes it easier in City Hall to keep tabs on this, it might be advisable to come back and have a resolution formally adopting this with it as an exhibit to the resolution, just for record keeping, so we can track it. What y'all just did is fine and it's effective, but a resolution,
Just as a resolution, because it's easier to go back and look for resolutions than minutes.
well, and to know what date this was approved and by
That's fine.
whom, and
Abby, can you put that on the agenda for next month, bring back a resolution? That way we can just bring it back as a resolution
Yeah.
to adopt.
just to clean it up.
Yeah.
Now, are we taking what Mike read as the steps for the maintenance?
No, those are, so that will be part of the master plan. That doesn't include, that's not part of the maintenance plan. The maintenance plan is its own document.
Okay, I just didn't
It
follow.
more talks about maintaining trails, maintaining,
Okay,
the wooded areas, all of those things are in the maintenance plan.
that's what I want.
And then we have, and just because it's as clear as mud, we have a comprehensive management plan, we have a comprehensive maintenance plan, and then we have a park master plan. And they're all three separate documents with three separate functions.
Right.
So just so we're clear, because I think that can be very confusing.
Well, that's why I was asking.
And I
the
even,
question.
and one of the things that I went back and, as part of this whole process, I've had to go back and reread all the environmental review. Ken mixed that up several times in the environmental review. And I think that that's something that eventually, I think in the near future, I'll probably call for a separate environmental review. And I may even do it myself and then turn it in. And so that way we have it updated to where it's actually more correct. So just as a revised version. So, all right, is that clear? Everybody understands? So now we're moving on to the comprehensive management plan, which is
That's
also
right.
on the agenda. So remember, for our comprehensive management plan, and I'll pull it up. This was the plan that was done by Beaver Watershed Alliance. That was a grant that they received from the Walton Family Foundation to be able to do this for us. And it's a great document. There's a lot of data there. Again, and then, you know, I spoke with Becky Rourke, who's our Beaver Watershed Alliance ally that works with us, and this is a best practices document. This is not a, you have to do this or else. This is a best practices document. And I think by and large, we follow it almost completely. Now, there's some things that we don't do exactly the way that it's lined out in the management plan, but we do use it as a document for best practices. And we want to do that. And there's also a document that I'm bringing to the Parks Commission. We're putting together binders for them on riparian planting and riparian zones. And so they're going to be having that as part of their packet that they'll always have with them, as well as this comprehensive management plan. So are we wanting to do anything with this other than just make sure that you guys are clear what it is?
That guiding document is best practice.
Yeah. Okay.
Our resolution is not ordinance.
All right.
Yeah, not anything to do.
All right. So I guess we move right on to the ordinance adopting sign regulations, the second reading. We're moving on to all of those.
There were some things here that I noticed as I read it, that, you know, just for example, like on page 3, under fee, it says applicant shall pay the fee as adopted from time to time by the city council. And that to me is not a clear statement, or by any means something that we could hold ourselves to. So, you know, there's just quite a few things through each of these that I think need to be clarified. You know, and like with the, you know, I'm on the sign on page 3.
Before you did
Yeah.
that, move so we can read it and then open it up for discussion.
Okay.
And
All
then
right.
we can go make.
Okay, all right. So I've been asked to make a motion to do a second reading, although I'll waive the in title only of the ordinance.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to read in title only the sign ordinance regulations. Any public comment before we vote? Yep.
What are the major changes to that?
To the sign
Is
ordinance?
there any major changes?
Yes, there's lots of changes. So
Let's read it.
yeah, let's,
Yeah, that's-
okay. Let's go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Paul Anderson.
Yes.
Colton Martin.
Yes.
Curtis Vaughn.
Abstain.
John Valencourt.
Yes.
Bert Wright.
Yes.
An ordinance repealing ordinance number 156 and adopting new sign regulations for the city of Goshen, Arkansas, and for other purposes. Now we can discuss.
Okay. Like I said, there's several things there. I noticed also as we, you know, kind of all of our ordinance, all of these new, the sign, the driveways, the lighting, whenever it says, you know, that somebody wants to apply for a variance, the way it's worded, it makes it sound like there's just a form to fill out and they pay but the wording on that is just, seems to be not what is actually the process for doing the variances, that kind of thing. So, you know, again, just some little kind of technical things there. I also have concerns, well, anyways, but again, I don't know whether you want me to go through each one of those one by one, or whether I should, then let's go ahead and go through them one by one. Okay.
Please.
All right. So, starting out there, page 3, on page 3, under section 3, item B, it says fee, and it says applicant shall pay the fee as adopted from time to time by the city council, which,
So,
yeah, that doesn't.
Hold the wrong one.
Oh, that's good. But no, But yeah, the time to time doesn't really seem to be clear as to, you know, that for the fee, the applicant may pay the fee, as approved by the city council rather than,
I can address some of that. I think that the reason that was worded that way is because we're going to a codified system so that once it goes into the codification, if you guys adjust the fee, it doesn't change the ordinance. You can adjust the fee without the ordinance being changed, and then that would actually be updated in the code. So the code would actually get updated without the ordinance changing.
can we just omit the from time to time as adopted by the city council?
Yep.
Because that time to time just kind of throws me, and I think it may open up some sort of ability for someone to have their own interpretation of that.
Yeah. No, it does sound better. I think
Yeah.
that's a better way to word it.
I think they just delete it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah.
If it's adopted by the
Just
city council.
eliminate the from time to time as adopted by the city council.
But we're referring to the sign permit fee, correct?
Correct.
Which you all are establishing in this ordinance. And I think what we need to
Well-
say,
Well, is this the lighting one?
this is the
No, it's the
sign.
sign.
And this ordinance is establishing the
Yeah.
permit fees $25.
And 200.
And
But it can't later be adopted by any resolution because, or amended by any resolution because it's in this ordinance. So
No. Yeah.
my suggestion is that we strike out the dollar amounts
Okay.
and just put in, to be set by city council per resolution, you know, by later resolution, something like that. And then once we get this ordinance in place, you all can adopt a resolution, set the fee, that can be easily amended
Yep.
from time to time.
That makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense.
So just, yeah. All right.
So you'll
Let's see here.
make the changes and just bring it back?
Yes.
On page 4, let me find that.
Okay.
Okay, so on page 4, that towards the bottom, street frontage. And it says, street frontages shall be considered separately for each street, the lot fronts measured by property lines, which is kind of, I think we need to remove that comma and extra space there. Street frontages shall be considered separately for each street that the lot fronts. That, you know, because I can see that you have, you know, again, if you have a building on a corner, you know, again, that lot is gonna have potentially two different fronts. So that's,
For each street abutting any individual parcel. Does that work?
Yeah.
you know, but yeah, it doesn't quite, yeah.
The word
Wording is not quite. Oh, I said, and then, and it says measured by property lines, which I think we may need to say like determined by the length of the property line along the street. Because, you know, measured by property lines, what property lines?
Is the
It's supposed to be.
Is the length of the property line even relevant?
I don't know.
It's just the street frontage, correct?
Street frontage.
So I think we just
So-
strike that entirely,
Okay.
that portion of it.
Okay, because again, that's,
And all we're trying to say is, a street frontage is determined by each individual street that abuts a parcel of property. Could be 2, could be 3. I don't know if we have any that be set up that way, but,
Hopefully not 3.
who knows what I'm thinking. Okay.
all right, that'll fix that.
And then, page 5, under F, it says the variance process, the variance application will be filled out, but,
So, we've got a separate agenda item on the variance, and I did not yet prepare an ordinance. I think there's some more
yeah,
work that needs to be done on that, and I want some guidance from you all.
yeah,
But my thought is, we've got this, I think, in each of these separate ordinances.
Yeah, that's all I'm.
We don't need this in here. I think we need the separate ordinance that establishes a variance process that will be applicable to all of these. So I think that needs to be stricken.
So we're gonna take out the variance process,
We're gonna take it out, any reference to it in this ordinance.
but we still have to have it in the ordinance to be able to say that there is a variance process for the ordinance
That will be established by a separate ordinance, a variance ordinance.
for all.
That will be applicable to these, yes. That's why I'm envisioning that variance ordinance.
Because you have a variance.
You all are adopting this ordinance. You all are gonna adopt a separate ordinance that allows a variance to occur. Process. But I think ideally, we want that process to be identical for
Yes,
for
for
each
all.
of these.
Right.
Yeah.
Then do we need to table these?
No, we're not tabling it. This is open for a second reading. We can make changes.
Oh, for a
I'll
second
bring it
reading.
back
Okay.
next month, hopefully, with final revisions that you all can adopt at that point in time. But,
Okay.
so I'm gonna strike that subparagraph F.
Okay.
Correct.
Because it's in all of them.
Yeah.
Because I had to make sure they were all the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Because again, and
But that does make sense, it's
Yeah.
just gonna be an ordinance, because I was thinking that the variance process would be a resolution for a variance, but it would be in the ordinance itself, but what you're saying is you have an ordinance that establishes a variance process.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Makes it easier. Okay.
and and like I said, that application, because the variance process, it's not really an application, it's you have to submit all of whatever you need to submit.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
okay, and then, let's see here. We have, okay, under natural resources zones. So my question is, with natural resources zones, would this in the future include parks where we're going to have like a baseball stadium or basketball court?
I guess it could. It's a natural resource
So-
zone, it's a park. That's the only natural resource zones that we've got to identify.
So if that's the case, we have the illuminated signs are prohibited in natural resource zones. But if we wanted an illuminated scoreboard, then that would conflict with that. Just thinking far into the future. Have a soccer field going in and they'll have a illuminated scoreboard. Scores for kids.
That's on a
Yeah.
sports facility.
That would be on a sports
versus-
facility, but is a sports facility part of a natural resource?
I mean, it could be built in our natural resource zone, technically,
Is that an approved use?
of our natural resource zone.
Is that a use by right in that zone?
I'd have to look at the zone and see it.
Wouldn't the city be putting that in?
Yes, but
I mean, what if,
we don't like to,
But
Violate our
the
own
city should
ordinances.
still be in compliance
Yes.
with the ordinance.
So where I was going is, if you want a bigger scoreboard, you gotta.
It's true, we could just ask for our own variance.
I mean, what if Springdale and Fayetteville do?
That would be the easiest, just ask for our own
Is a
variance
natural resource zone just municipal owned property?
at this point, yeah.
Is there a point in time where it could be privately owned property within that zone?
It could still be, so a natural resource zone could be in the future an area that's like, say, Greenway, that it connects us to the Greenway wherever. That could still be a natural resource zone somewhere down there, like towards.
But we would have had to condemn that property, and then we would, well, the city, I mean,
well, you wanna put a pin on that one?
I just think we leave it and then we get the variance if we want to put it in, we get a variance. We give ourselves a variance for it.
when are y'all putting in a baseball field?
I don't know. Again, I'm just trying to be
Jerry's access fund.
Exactly.
far ahead, so we don't have to come back and give ourselves a
Okay.
variance in the future. Okay.
So leave that alone.
So I guess we leave that alone. Let's see here. So on to page 8. So page 8, it has a odd thing there at the very end of the statement of being moved from permitted signs. don't know that that needs to be there. I don't know if we just need to strike that.
That may have been, is that a note?
A note or something that just went up as
It's
taken.
page 8, subparagraph, or paragraph D, section 8,
Freestanding signs.
the last sentence there.
Oh, move from permanent signs, yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
that was,
Yeah.
that was
so
some
strike
note,
that.
yeah.
Okay. And page 10, under M, it says, commercial construction site signs, construction sites are encouraged to advertise. Do we want to say encouraged? Because I'm still of the opinion that,
Allowed?
allowed would be, or allowed would be what I would say rather than encouraged, because, that implies that we're telling the construction people, you should definitely put a sign out there
Yeah.
and
Sites are allowed to advertise,
Permitted.
but must adhere
Yeah.
to these restrictions. Okay.
Permitted to do it.
permitted or allowed, I think.
I'm gonna go with Jerry's word there.
Permitted. Okay, page 11, I guess this was just kind of a question I, didn't think to, I didn't make it to the meeting last week with the planning commission, but we have the crown signs that are listed. Crown signs are permitted on buildings or structures over 2 stories high. I don't know if there's a reason that we're saying 2 stories high versus a 1-story building. We really don't have too many 2-story buildings here in Goshen, so I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason to that. Just kind of wanted to wonder about that. Anybody has any?
I like the crown sign.
Go back up.
It's something,
Sits on top.
It's talking of the definitions, like.
the roof edge.
Ground sign, a wall sign that does not extend more than 3 feet from the building facade located on the upper horizontal band of a building at least 2 stories high. But, no, again, why a crown
Your
sign?
question is why a
Yeah,
one-story,
why,
single story?
why
can't have
single
it.
story can't have it? Why do we have it? I don't know.
I mean,
Maybe
you could have a crown sign
close
on
to
a
the ground.
one-story building.
No, I know, but, well,
Or-
it still has to.
Or you leave it alone, and
Yeah.
if somebody really runs into this issue,
They
they can.
put in variance.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to see if there was something to that. And there's some news articles that have popped up in my news feed lately, just talking about, like, cities in Florida that are basically charging their citizens huge amounts, exorbitant amounts for basically not, minor violations of, their house, characteristics or whatever. But anyways, and looking at this, we have the non-compliance fee of $250 a day. And, so if somebody can't get something taken down, the city, whoever it may be in the city, is well within the right to go out there and fine them every day, $250. And so in a short week, that's in a month,
Well, and
And-
my thought on that is, anybody that's putting up a sign
Mhm.
should familiarize themselves with this before they do so. This is only comes into play if they put up a sign that's totally, completely in violation. Paula, certainly that's something that could be resolved by agreement after the fact, but I think you all want to have something in place.
Right, I'm
and I
not
don't know
saying
that that's-
something, I'm just saying maybe $250 a week.
No.
No, you don't.
No.
No, you gotta put it
Because
to a
if you don't
day.
put it high enough, people just leave
It's
it
gotta
there.
have bite.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
All right,
and
then.
then violators, and it says may face a fine. It's not like, we're
Yeah.
not out to set out and start sending out fines, but if you have somebody that's just
If somebody just
willfully
wants to thumb their
disregarding.
nose at the city, we
Yeah, I
want to be
understand
able
that,
to.
yeah.
And you can ask Brian, they may take it to court and the judge may say, you gotta pay $50.
Yeah, a lot of it will be negotiated down, but
Right. But this, again, I need to make sure we're aware of what's
Yeah.
out there.
It's for bite.
Yeah.
Give it to Jason, he'll give him a warning.
And then also on page 13 is also more of the variance process. So. you may
where
want-
is it?
Page 13. the
Oh, right here?
Yep.
Okay,
It's just the variance process, we'll take that out.
Take that out.
got it.
That's all I had for those.
Any notes from anybody else?
Paula covered it.
And I've looked at this like,
Wait, hold on, let's
I've
see your
looked at this
notes
for
over
months
there.
and I didn't see some of those things. Thank
I
you.
pulled out my fine tooth comb.
All right, are we, any other public comment? So I know that Chris had a comment as well about how did it change from the prior ordinance. Linda, you had a comment?
It is out there on the website.
I actually pulled it up.
Yeah.
If you want to look at it, it's ordinance 156. Yep.
156.
So I think some of the major things that are different in the new ordinance versus the old is that the new encompasses a lot more definitions. It gives a lot more information on lit signs, on types of different signs that are in production that we didn't really address in the prior sign ordinance. So in the prior sign ordinance, it was, you gotta have a ground mounted sign, it can be backlit, but pretty much anything else, it really didn't allow for. And so this is a lot more inclusive of other types of signs in that.
How did the flashing signs changing limit end up?
It's still the same at an hour.
I don't know.
That didn't, the planning commission wanted to stay with the same as what it was, as an hour, and just approve a variance process for it. Yeah,
Will it-
Linda?
Existing signs, I'm sorry.
Does this include garage sale signs and like directional signs to a birthday party,
So
temporary signs?
if you're gonna have, garage sale signs, I think are one of those that, you don't have to get a permit because you get a permit for your garage sale anyway, for an outdoor sales permit. And there's a whole section that, under the new ordinance, it allows a whole section there that's for those small signs that are allowed. So, does that make sense? So we're not trying to regulate all of those little small signs. But now, there are regulations about if you leave it out, we have the right to go take it out. Or if you put it in a manner that blocks visual aid of traffic, then we can take it down. So there's those types of things, so.
And the state take it down if you put it in the right way.
That is true. Yep.
I just was curious if existing signs are being grandfathered
They
in.
are. Yep. Because pole signs are out, and we still have pole signs that are actively in our community. But if it
If it
changes,
gets knocked over by a tornado, no.
Okay.
Yep.
Or Kubota,
Yep.
or anything.
Okay.
So if they have to put a new sign up, then they'd have to go back with the new ordinance. And if it changes, like if they're changing out their sign, and this is one of the things that we probably could have gotten, Scott's to put a new sign up when they changed from Anderson's to Scott's, because technically when it changed companies, they now have to comply with the sign standard, right?
Other than the fact that it wasn't effective.
It wasn't, and that's what I'm saying, is now, if it were to happen today, after this ordinance takes effect, they would.
I don't know. I mean,
Well,
that's,
because that,
the-
all it is a faceplate.
that's my hesitation. The structure of the sign is not changing, they're just changing out the facade of it.
And then buying that as part of the purchase.
That would be my opinion on
Now, if a car hits
Me
it,
too.
knocks it down, or a truck hits it, knocks it down.
that. That, they could not erect a new sign in the same manner. That's correct.
So who am I gonna catch out there with the saws off tonight?
Yeah.
Or
None.
Send Nathan down the
All right, any other public comment or discussion before we close?
Did they answer your question?
I'll read
Okay.
it. See.
All right.
I just don't want big electronic signs to be, blinking and stuff all night.
No, so they're in the new ordinance, you cannot have it on after, I think it's 11 or midnight
It's midnight to.
to 6 a.m. or something like that.
No
Seven.
flashing.
No, it can't even be on.
It can't be
Well, I
on.
mean, at any point, there's no flashing, there's a digital.
Yeah, there's
sign.
no flashing at all, there's no animation. So, and it cannot change more than once an hour unless there's a variance that's authorized. And then, we've set lumens so that it's not gonna be super, super bright, so there's limitations on it. But the problem is that we were eliminating all electronic signs, and almost all signs are going to electronic now because it's all in these different formats with nits and LED and different, types of illumination, so that's why we were trying to get to the point where technology has come. So,
Somebody could move to approve the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
so we have a motion to approve the second reading. Any other public comment before we do a roll call vote? All right, roll call vote.
Paul Anderson,
Yes.
Paul Martin,
Yes.
Curtis Vaughn,
Abstain.
abstain,
Abstain.
John Valencourt,
Yes.
Bruce Wright.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to the driveway
Okay.
ordinance.
Should I make a motion to read in title only for the, that we're on the second reading?
Of the driveway.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to read in title only the driveway ordinance, regulations. Any public comment before we vote? All right, roll call vote.
Paul Anderson,
Yes.
Paul Martin,
Yes.
Curtis Vaughn,
Yes.
John Valencourt,
Yes.
Bruce Wright.
Yes.
All right, ready to discuss this one? You want this one too?
I am.
All right. So, under A1, it says all driveways must comply with the regulations outlined in this document. So does that mean everybody's driveway, even the driveways that? Okay. So I just wanted some clarification on that.
If you want me to add some clarification,
Well, I would say, that, or just say,
any existing driveways are exempt from these unless they are substantially altered in the future. But
yeah, I mean, just something so that the people that, whoever has their driveways as they are right now are not gonna be forced into bankruptcy because we're making them put in alterations to the driveway to come up to standard there.
But, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
what
yeah.
circumstance would come up in the future where they would need to come into compliance?
I don't know.
Well, that's been a comment that we've been bringing up at Planning Commission.
Yep.
That if you have a driveway and you decide to build a new garage on your property, that you would have to update your driveway with the new garage add-on,
Because that's requiring a new building permit.
requiring a new building permit. I didn't think that was appropriate, but some of the Planning Commission feels like it is, some of them don't. That's up to you guys.
I think it's ludicrous.
I personally don't think that we need to make someone
If you
put in a paved entrance to their driveway just because they're building a garage. It's been there for 20 years and they're building a garage. Let them build a garage. Now,
Oh, if you have no garage and you're gonna build a garage, okay.
or a guest house or a pool or whatever. And, Lacey and I had this discussion because she took it when there was a property that's subdivided over off of Highway 45. And they sold the front corner of the property, but it's on a private drive. And I said, well, they're gonna need to pave that drive when they build their house, because the house abuts to the front of Highway 45. And Lacey argued and said, well, it's an existing. I said, but it's a new parcel of property there. So, but then the other question becomes, if that's a parcel in the back end of that private driveway, 3/4 of a mile or a mile down this private
We had
driveway.
that issue come up over on Oxford Bend, didn't we?
Mhm. Then do you make them pave that entrance off of the road when that driveway's been there for 20 years and they're at the very back end of it? The property they bought is not even close to the road.
And that's not something that you're going to know about when you purchase that
When
property.
you purchase the property.
So would a
That's right.
variance request take care of that?
I mean, it could, yeah, if you guys approve the variance, but this council's not always gonna be the same. What if a new council decides they don't wanna approve that kind of
How
a
long you
variance?
can nitpick each one? I mean,
Okay,
it's an existing driveway. I'm a mile off of that.
I'm not gonna force them to pave it.
Yeah.
I'm just not.
So, I mean, we need to figure out some way of putting that in here so that where those driveways that are as they are right now when this passes, that, yeah, they stay, it's grandfathered.
But it's an existing driveway that's for ingress and egress to a current structure. Yes.
Now granted,
Correct.
if it's a private drive and
Tuesday.
you sell a property on a private drive and you're coming to get a permit now to build on it, if it doesn't meet fire inspection, you've got to come up to the fire code. And that is 20 feet wide. So like, if you now have bought a property at the end of a private drive and now you want to build a house, we're not going to issue a permit until that road gets improved. Not just the driveway, the whole road. So there's lots of things that are involved in this when you start
That was the
looking
issue
at
at
it.
Oxford Bend.
That was the
wasn't
issue
it?
at Oxford
Yeah.
Bend. And then the Corps of Engineers actually owns the road.
And
Now
they
they've
did.
been in a legal battle with the Corps of Engineers since then. So,
So to Paul's point, existing as is
Yep.
fine.
yep.
And if there's a one-off here and there, the variance process is with
I think so. But from council's perspective, and my understanding is that if you have an existing driveway and it's not a new driveway, and you're adding something to your property and it's yours, you're not selling your property, I don't think we need to make them go back in and
But
pay
if
that.
you sell the back 10 acres and
Yes.
give them an easement using your existing driveway, then what's the answer?
Yeah, who pays for that? The
That's-
person that sold the property or the people who bought the
Well,
property?
that should be in the negotiations of the sale of property.
Well, it should, that's between them, but as far as the city giving a building permit back there, that's where this comes into play.
I think that's when you have the variance to complete your case.
So they have to pay it unless we grant them a variance. Okay. I mean, I'm okay with that.
But
They'd have to pay beyond the existing driveway.
Well,
The existing is there for the.
They got
existing
300
structure.
yards of an old gravel drive,
right.
and then wherever their easement goes
But-
beyond that.
We're not telling, it doesn't have to be paved, or the area near the apron has to be
That's the
paved.
requirement.
That's the requirement. The rest of that driveway just has to be improved to the point where it's acceptable
For
for
fire
fire
apparatus,
apparatus.
yeah.
But Lacey's interpretation was if you're building on a private drive, you have to put a new apron at where it meets the city street.
I don't see that one.
I don't either.
It's existing.
I just wanted to clarify my understanding. Everybody else's
I mean,
understanding.
they couldn't even put, probably areas, I mean, they're running along the cliff there anyhow. And the one-
Maybe we just leave this and don't put anything there, and somebody can come and ask if there's a question, versus saying all existing driveways are exempt, because there may be
Yeah.
situations where you all don't want to exempt them.
That's fair.
Well, and there is wordage in here that talks about problem driveways, where gravel is constantly running out on the road. We can require them to, improve that either with concrete or gravel grade or something to help prevent that.
I mean, like here,
So, like here. John, this isn't even a problem compared to other places.
So leave this alone.
just out of compliance, that's all.
Yes, we are.
All right, let's see here. So, I got all the way to page 6 on this one. So on page 6, we have the statement A1, or let's see here. We have so under, at the top of page 6, ingress, egress, driveway apron. If a driveway slopes down from the street, the apron must be concrete or asphalt from end to descend 15 feet from the seat to design to prevent water and loose gravel from washing onto the street. That implies that water flows uphill.
It slopes down the street.
Well, no.
Down from away from the street.
Right,
what
the
this says,
driveway
right?
slopes down from the street,
Down toward the street.
or the other one says, driveway slopes up from the street. So if the driveway slopes up, yes. But
So if it slopes
down.
if it
toward
slopes
the
down
street.
from the street,
Maybe we just strike the design to prevent water and loose gravel from washing on the street, just strike that.
I mean, if we want to keep.
Still require an apron,
Right,
but we're not providing rationale for that, that's just
Right.
required.
If it slopes down from the street, They're only required to put 15 feet,
That's what this would say.
and the other one's is
25.
It's
It's
25 feet.
if you're going up, it's
If it's-
15
if
feet if you're
it's-
going down.
If it's coming into the street down, it's 25 feet.
Yeah.
If it's going down from the street,
15.
it's 15.
So just strike as on. And if it's laser level, it's not.
If it's laser level, 20 feet.
I don't think there's any laser level place.
Not out
in
here.
Goshen.
No.
All right, what else
All
we got?
right, okay, so, let's see here. And then under F, culverts. So this says that we want all culverts to go in to be concrete.
Correct.
But is this just, I guess, is this also going to cover, again, is this covering people's private drives, or is this just
Every
right where
culvert.
it needs? And so I guess I kind of have an issue, if somebody's putting their own private drive in and they're not anywhere close to a city street with a private drive,
That's not, it doesn't apply to that.
well,
Only private drives that are coming onto a city street.
We're talking about culverts in the right of way.
Correct.
okay,
So do we need to add some clarification there?
that's,
No, because if you're on a private drive, you don't have to comply with any of this. If you're coming off of a private
Well,
drive.
what if you're on it's not a private drive, it's just your driveway, and it requires
That's-
3 culverts
yeah.
down the driveway?
See, is
We don't
this-
care what they're doing on their
Right.
private property, right?
Right.
We're just worried about the one in the right of way.
Right.
So here, because under proper drainage tile, it says driveways connecting to public streets that transverse drainage ditches must use a drainage tile or culvert of sufficient size, but it does not say that, this is only in
So
the
just put
city
culverts
right
in
of way.
right of ways.
Yeah,
Yeah,
culverts and right of
right of
ways. So I
ways.
just wanna,
Yeah.
because,
Because we're not gonna have any, we have no authority of telling you where you put your culverts on your private property.
right, but,
Yeah.
that could,
Well, y'all could,
But we don't
I
want
think
to.
it's ill-advised.
No, we don't want
but I
to.
just want some clarification there because the way it reads,
So can you just put 1 culverts?
On F1, would just be culverts in right of ways?
right ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, again, that E though, I don't know if we want to include the in right of ways also in E.
Well, if you put it under,
I
if you
think
put it
we-
at the top.
I think we
under
can strike
culverts,
E, can't we?
Yeah, I was just gonna,
E. What do you mean strike it?
proper drainage tile.
Are you talking about length of tile? Because it says E. Oh, you're talking about E.
Yeah.
Under that heading.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me look. Where is it? E, proper drainage tile, driveways connect.
I think we can strike E, and we're relying on F1D.
Yes.
Correct?
That's correct.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And I guess FB is quite kind of wordy and convoluted. Installation. And it's kind of like, what are we really wanting?
So the intent of this installation is that you're going to comply and it's going to be in accordance with RDOT standards.
Okay.
And the way that it's installed, that it must be concrete, but it's going to be installed within the specifications of the highway department for RDOT.
But do we want the same specifications whether it's connecting the highway or a
Doesn't
city
matter.
street?
Yeah, all of them.
So I think you're right, Paul, we could reword that.
Yeah, it could be, it definitely could be worded in.
Must be in accordance with RDOT guidelines then in effect.
No, because the problem with just RDOT guidelines, they don't require concrete on all of them. We want concrete. So that's why we've added that in there. And the reason we put must be durable in accordance with the state highway standard in the case of a highway. So, because we can't mandate on RDOT jurisdiction, whether it's concrete or whether it's steel. So if RDOT says, here's your driveway permit off Highway 45, they can put in a steel culvert. But if you're within the city, or in the case of a city street, standard specifications for highway and road construction for installation of concrete culverts via RDOT guidelines then in effect. So you're just,
Then it does need to stay as drafted.
that was the reason why we ended up.
Because on the highway,
Highway's
they'll do
different.
whatever the state says.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So that if it's, and that's why we say it durable, because we don't even know if it's gonna be steel or whether it's gonna be some poly plastic or, whatever RDOT allows at the time. We don't know what that's gonna be, because they've gone back and forth on what they allow.
Let's see here. Page 7, number 2, right-of-way standards. Let's see here. It says, the engineer inspection letter at the cost of the developer. But if these are private drives, does a developer term apply?
Yeah, so if you are the owner, you can do an owner affidavit.
Right.
Like if you're doing your own construction on it, and then you are then at that point.
But would you rather it say developer or property owner?
I think, I would say developer or property owner, just so that.
Or not developer, let's just say property owner.
Yeah, property owner.
Make it as broad as possible.
Right.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, page 8B. That's another variance process.
Same, yeah, what we talked about before.
Okay, we're there.
Yep.
Okay. And.
Anybody else?
All we got is all.
We could have used you in
Nothing
those,
on page 10 is
commission.
all.
Motion to
Motion to approve.
the reading?
The reading.
Second.
So we have a motion to approve the reading in a second. Any public comment before we do a roll call vote? All right, roll call vote.
Oh, I understand.
Yes.
Did we even move the readings? Yes.
Yeah, we did.
I read all that?
Yeah.
Curtis Vaughn,
Yes.
It didn't look familiar to me.
John
Sorry.
Valencourt,
Yes.
Bert Wright.
Yes.
All right, so carried. So we've done our second reading and we approved it. Now we can move on to the ordinance adopting the second reading of the lighting regulations.
I'll make a motion to read the ordinance in title only for the second reading.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to read the title only. Any public comment before we do roll call vote? All right, roll call.
Paul Anderson,
Yes.
Colton Martin,
Yes.
Curtis Vaughn,
Yes.
John Valencourt,
Yes.
Bert Wright.
Yes. An ordinance repealing ordinance number 156 and adopting new sign regulations for the city of Goshen.
You're on sign regulation.
Oh.
We're doing new
An
lighting.
ordinance repealing ordinance number 107 and adopting new outdoor lighting regulations for the city of Goshen, Arkansas, and for other purposes.
Okay.
Now open for discussion.
All right. So section 3 on page 2A,
Lighting intensity.
lighting intensity, and it says, for the purpose, let's see here. Yeah, it's kind of a weird statement there, for the purpose unless lighting on a timer for the purpose of, for the purposes or weird wording there.
I don't know what that's supposed to say.
Residential outdoor lighting fixtures may emit a maximum of 1,100 lumens for the purpose. That needs to just come out. For the purpose needs to come out.
And so just Strike that.
Strike that. That first for the purpose needs to come out. Unless lighting is on a timer not to exceed 10 minutes for the purpose of landscape, walkaway, or security.
Okay. That sounds,
It could be for all three, or it could just be one.
So, no, so what happens is can't exceed more than 1,100 on just
Right.
around your house.
Right.
Unless the lighting is on a timer that's not to exceed 10 minutes. So if it's on a timer, it has to go off in 10 minutes for the purposes of landscape, walkway, or security.
I think and should be or.
Yeah.
All right. So, too many purposes there. Let's see here. We've got, we've got variances again on page 5. So.
Variance process.
Yep, variance process there.
Let's go back to item A again, lighting intensity.
Where are we going back to?
I don't think it's even supposed to be landscape in there.
Yeah,
I think that needs to come out. I think it's just supposed to be unless lighting is on a timer, not to exceed 10 minutes for walkway and security.
Walkway with security.
Landscape lighting has nothing to do with being on a timer. So,
That makes sense to me.
the plants might be upset.
For the purposes of walkways
yes,
or security?
yes.
Okay, so we have the variance. And I guess the only thing I kind of noticed was that, and some of our variances, I think we need to be clear whenever we do that variance, what is going to require notification of the surrounding properties.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
well, we can get there and talk
Yeah,
about it, but
yeah.
I know for lighting, most specifically lighting, there's some sort of a radius, there's a radius that needs to be
200 feet.
included.
Yeah, and then, but, you know,
The other ones wouldn't necessarily.
yeah. You know, with
Well, I
the
think it's-
driveway variance, we may want to notify the adjacent landowners if it is a variance in a driveway of some sort. You know, like it's- you know, they're asking for variance to put their driveway within 2 feet of, you know, right next, or right on the property line or something. You know, you wouldn't want necessarily them to grant that variance without having property owners notified. I mean, I can see somebody getting pretty upset about, you know, not being notified that someone's getting approved to.
Well, yeah, and that, but I think on our, that'd be a setback variance. And I think there's already
Yeah, there's some stuff.
notice requirements
Yeah.
already in place on some of those.
So, you know, I just wanted to, again, kind of see about that.
Okay.
And, you know, a sign variance, you know, it may be worthwhile also to notify the neighbors of that. You know, again, if the business wants to put a sign right on the property line, or, you know, and avoid setback again.
Yeah.
You know, that would be a fair thing to do for the neighbors. They are aware that they could have a sign put. right
Anybody
on-
within 200 feet of the variance?
But, so
That's what it's for lighting, is 200 feet, so.
Bunch of policing to do that.
Yeah, it's much policing. You know, I just don't know if we.
In my mind, it's
Yeah,
your property.
yeah. It is.
If you know you're doing something, you would think neighbors would at least inquire, come down here and say, I'm against this variance.
Well, but they
They may
may,
not even know.
there's no work that's going on, they're just asking for permission from the city to do it, and then all of a sudden the city's granted it before anybody
Has a
No.
had a
chance
chance to object.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's where the problem.
Yeah,
I think it's easy just to notify people, send out a certified letter
yeah. At least to the adjacent.
to the adjacent property owners. I mean, with.
We have to do that on
200
conditional
feet,
use
200
permits.
Yeah, 200 feet's not very far. I mean, it's not, you know,
Remember that, so you can more people.
need what? More people?
Go notify variances.
Okay, so, okay, so there's that. Let's see here, and then, oh wait, and then, okay. Actually, that was it, because the rest of it I have was for the budget. Okay,
And it's not on us, the city, it's on the property owner. They're the ones responsible. When they apply for a variance, they have to notify the property owners.
so,
It's not on the city to do it, it's on the person requesting the variance.
And then they provide proof.
And they provide proof that they've notified.
But
Yep.
this is commercial.
No, this is anybody. This is residential or commercial. This applies to everything. It's lighting, it's general lighting, general driveways, general sign. I mean,
Yeah.
signs have specific things for, commercial. And lighting too, depending on where you're at, but if it's outside of that, you need the variance.
Any other notes from others, or did Paula cover that one too?
Any public comment? All right. So we wanna,
Motion to approve the reading?
Motion approved reading.
Real quick, what's the reason why fossil fuel lighting?
that's for,
Roll call.
because that doesn't provide enough lumens to create that much light, and it's only like propane or natural gas. So, that's the fossil fuel. We just have to give that as an exemption. But the lumens on it are so low.
No, yeah, they
We'll
get.
wait for a roll call.
I'm just waiting for him to stop talking.
We've got a motion and a second.
All right, motion and a second, roll call.
Paul Anderson,
Yes.
Paul Martin,
Yeah.
Curtis Vaughn,
Yes.
John Valencourt,
Yes.
Bruce Wright.
Yes.
So we've approved our second reading of this. We'll bring it back with those changes next month. All right, the variance process, I think we've already talked about, so.
Well, I do want to talk about that. So let me pull up your initial draft.
Are you talking about this one?
Variance application request policy.
So my main questions to you all,
And then something just to throw in, we haven't added this, but under the application process, do we want to make it more affordable for a nonprofit entity or a church, or, I mean, is that something that you guys would entertain? Like if it was a variance request from, a nonprofit that's out here doing good for the city, or a church that's here in the city, you want to allow a difference as far as the fee?
I think that's reasonable.
I think you could just leave it at
Well,
We can.
yeah, and this is the same issue that we ran into with, the community
The building
building.
here, yeah.
Yeah, same sort of line of,
We said nonprofit.
Yeah, we did. Our church is nonprofit.
It's like, yeah, it's Curtis somewhere, right? I mean, I think you have to charge a fee. Yeah, I think a lesser fee.
A lesser fee?
although we said,
Can you say nonprofit entities?
well, with using the building here though, I think we opened it up to not just strictly legally nonprofits, I think we said. What was our terminology there that you guys,
we specify.
we specified,
Yeah.
so whatever that terminology was that we specified here for the community center, I mean, we can use that same terminology.
I'm thinking like the writing club, if they wanted a variance for something because of the lighting or.
We did a certain amount for the lease, like
Yeah.
the extension, what was it?
Extension Cooperative
$1
Homemakers.
for the
But,
year.
and I'm just throwing out my own thoughts. Those are scenarios where an organization has very limited resources and you all are trying to accommodate and make the city property available to them. What we're dealing with here is an entity or an individual that's building something that is.
Well, not necessarily, because you take the Goshen Writing Club, they operate completely on just proceeds they get from
But they don't need a
a
lighting
lighting
variance.
variance. But they might. They may end up deciding they want to put in different lighting around the arena and that they need a variance for it for some reason. I mean, I just hate to say, you gotta pay $200 when you barely have, money to fix the culvert that just washed out.
Well, what we could say is that, just put in the application process, just say that a reduced fee may be considered by the council or a.
I think that's
yeah.
the safer approach.
Case by case basis.
Case by
Yeah,
case
I mean, I just
basis.
don't like the idea of,
That's fine.
I mean, or, yeah, you know, or.
Can we do
put in-
that?
Put
I
in
mean,
there
just
that,
something.
or if they pay the fee up front and we refund.
or just put in a fee reduction or fee waiver may be granted by the city council upon request of the applicant. And just let them bring it to you and explain why they want it.
Okay.
Or, would you say for,
And just,
No, I mean, I think you just leave it as broad as that, and
Yeah.
they come convince you all why they should get
And
it.
you say yes or no. I don't know.
I think that's reasonable. Because, I mean, if they're a nonprofit and they really don't have much money, I think that.
Well, if a homeowner shows up and says that, you've got every other homeowner sitting here saying, I assume.
Yeah, I paid it.
Yeah.
I paid it.
I mean, that's not the scenario we're talking about.
I know,
I think that's,
but you know, some people,
we'll let them bring it.
Well, but if you've got somebody that's, you know, an
They won't-
elderly person on a fixed
They'll let-
income that
they'll
wants a
let us all
variance,
out.
they may be able to bring their case and say, hey, look, I'm, 80 years old, I'm on a fixed income.
I'm on disability.
I can't afford this.
Yeah.
So I'm building
We may
a
say,
shop,
okay.
build a new,
I live on,
But
I'm living
have
on
enough
food
money to build a
stamps.
swimming pool.
A reduction
therapy
or
pool.
waiver,
I'm retired, I'm on a fixed income.
a reduction or waiver may be granted
new discretion.
by city council upon a showing of good cause, or
Yeah, that sounds good.
Presentation.
I'm sure you're working on
Can't
this.
cut the state.
Conditions.
W2.
bring it on.
Thank you, Sharon.
Okay, so we'll make that change.
Just-
I think my bigger, so, and we had some discussion just now, so was everybody in agreement? 200 feet radius of the applicant's property, they must provide notice.
Well, adjacent homeowners also, because if they have a large property, 200 feet wouldn't actually include the adjacent property owners.
200 feet adjacency of the property line.
Well, it's 200, okay, no, but the way I'm looking at it, 200-foot radius from the applicant's property.
Right.
Yeah.
So
If-
their
If
sideline.
their property's 100
If
acres.
it's 200
your
feet
fence
outside
all the
of
way
that.
around it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You might want to do more though. I mean, it might be that the fixture that they're wanting a variance for is going to reach out 500 feet.
Well, if it,
No, you can't.
yeah.
We wouldn't approve something that's gonna reach 500 feet. That would really go against everything within our lighting ordinances.
Well, I mean, it is a variance process. So
Yeah.
you just
I just want to make sure that the adjacent property owners, even if that's a,
But 200 feet's the standard pretty much everywhere.
Notice of variance request
From the
And-
property line.
From property line.
okay.
and hearing date.
Yep.
So the
Property line.
the applicant shall have already scheduled a hearing,
Mm-hmm.
and then that goes into the notice.
Or just that council Clear the docket for the rest of the week.
Tomorrow's light.
Yeah.
How much advance notice is gonna be required before the hearing?
Well, now
How-
the hearing, though, this goes before,
The,
well, we said that waiver by us, but it goes to the Board of Zoning Adjustment.
you all will hear an appeal.
An appeal. So if they get approved by the Board
Board of Zoning Adjustment.
Uh-huh.
then we would never be able to approve a
No,
waiver.
They can still
So-
appeal. You can appeal either
But,
decision.
I mean, like, we could never appeal the waiver of the fee, is what I'm talking about, or the reduction of the fee.
That's
So,
separate.
that's gonna be
That's just
separate.
separate. That's just saying, here's what the application fee is.
Mhm.
If an applicant is seeking a reduction or waiver of that,
Right.
they gotta come ask you.
Is that approval, though, that we want to allow the Board of Zoning Adjustment, since they're the first one, they're the ones that,
No, you all control money. Y'all need to address that.
Right.
But the Board of Zoning, they're not gonna have a special meeting, so it's gonna happen
During their monthly
first,
meeting.
first Tuesday of the month. How far in advance is the notice served on these neighboring property owners?
I would say 20 days in advance. 20 to
Our,
30.
our notice of public hearings is 15 days. That's what y'all established for public hearings, we gotta give public notice for
Consistent with
15
that.
days. Are you good with that? And they just have to
Yeah.
show proof of service?
But they have to show proof of service prior to that 15 days.
Well, at least 15
At
days
least
in
15
advance.
days.
Of the meeting.
And what is proof of service?
There needs to be a signed, certified letter. If you, I mean, certified.
And that's
Certified
what,
letter.
so Dr. Buell ran into that issue. We didn't really have a great answer when he was doing his conditional use down there. You run into some people who don't sign. I run into this when I'm serving lawsuits and I send a certified letter. It sits in their mailbox for however long. Finally get a green card back saying that they weren't there. Well, that's not happened in 15 days. Do we just tell the applicant, keep trying and we'll reschedule it? I mean, then you run into the problem where they're having to do notice again.
Well,
The next, it
I had that happen
becomes,
with Brian.
whenever you,
that was an
Several
issue.
times.
whenever you send that certified mail notice though, don't you get a tag receipt?
Yeah, but
showing-
just because it gets in their mailbox.
Somebody may be on a 2-week vacation.
Yeah, they might be.
Seems like other cities just want to sign out that there's gonna be a variance
Yeah.
request.
Yeah, I mean, and we could go that route.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's easier.
So attempt service by certified mail
Yes,
and show proof that you've attempted that at least 15 days in advance.
yeah.
And
And
then
posted
the
the
public
public
notice.
hearing
something.
notice.
Okay.
We'll get an exemption. Yes, we'll go with it.
The sign needs to be posted on the property at least 15 days in advance, correct?
Yep. It's in the public hearing.
Okay.
And then we need to administratively create a public hearing sign. We will.
I've got some sitting in my office.
Bring one down.
I was gonna say, those kinds of things, easy to copy.
Okay, and then on okay with that. And then the appeal process.
Yeah, so we talked a lot about the appeal process, because what the concern was is that if it goes to the Board of Zoning Adjustment and they say, no, we're not approving it, then the people that are saying they want to proceed forward need to be able to appeal. But in the same token, if the Board of Zoning Adjustment says, yep, we're approving it, but then you have all these people that are upset, and they didn't want it approved, they can appeal to the city as well. Does that make sense? So it's not just the person that was seeking the variance.
So wouldn't either situation be appeal before the city council votes the final decision?
Yeah, but who gets to appeal it? Obviously, the applicant.
Yep.
If the Board of Zoning Adjustments doesn't rule in their favor, they can appeal it. Say they do rule in their favor, and you've got disgruntled citizens who are not happy with that and wanted the council to address that. Can any citizen appeal it? And the reason I say that, because we're dealing with this radius, and that's the notice requirement, and that makes sense. We could be dealing with a sign going up and down the highway that affects any number of people who don't live anywhere near that radius.
I think it's only the adjoining property owners that would have an appeal in the negative.
Okay, I agree.
I don't think that anybody in the city can just appeal because they want to.
I don't think that makes sense, but I'm just thinking through.
I think if an adjacent property owner wants to appeal a decision that was made by Board of Zoning Adjustment
You're right.
related to a variance.
And do they
should be able
have
do
to
that.
have been at the hearing?
Yes,
Well,
I think so.
but again,
No, you have
Well-
to. If you're gonna argue it and appeal it, you're not even gonna show up for the.
I agree with that. I
You
mean,
gotta be
that's-
at the meeting. You had to have been there to
You're right.
state your concern to the the
Sure.
Board of Zoning Adjustment.
Because they have to use that information along with
Right.
other information.
well, are they gonna take
To make the
attendance
decision.
at the meeting then?
I think that
Find out
it,
who exactly is there?
Yeah,
I think that
I think if they got an interest, they're gonna be there.
yeah.
Where do you think it holds?
if you're within line of sight of whatever goes up, I think those people should have a right to appeal.
I think it's adjoining property owners.
But
Yes.
within line of sight, I mean, it's not.
You think within line of sight, you're 1,000 feet away and you've got the
Line
right
of
to
sight
come
to-
Well,
tell
it might-
somebody that
I mean,
they,
it might not be 1,000 feet.
but it may be 1,000 feet. Line of sight may be 2,000 feet. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't say line of sight.
Maybe
Gina
a
and I
mile.
sit in our house and watch up on the hill, lights that are way up there, how many yards away? 500 yards away?
But that's a pretty good example.
But it's at the same time, you know, we're not adjacent to that property.
Yeah, we're not.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good example though, because I know the lights bother me, they bother Gina.
But they're not even in the city.
They're not,
You
yeah.
can't do
I
anything
get that
about
they're
it.
not in the city, but if that were to occur within the city, I think people within line of sight should have the ability to appeal to city council.
I don't think so. I
I
think the
say
city
adjacent.
council
You say
makes
line of sight or
adjacent.
Adjacent.
It's adjacent, line of sight adjacent.
I think adjacent, if there are enough people that are upset about it,
They're gonna bring it
the
to us
adjacent
anyway.
owner's gonna be upset about it
Yeah.
themselves, you know, and so I think that the, you know, again, you know, anybody else that is horrified by it is gonna be talking to those adjacent landowners who essentially have the voice of everybody else for.
Called line of sight.
Adjacent.
Adjacent. It's majority, adjacent.
Is that what you're?
I'm thinking.
I don't anticipate it being a lot.
I don't, but I want to have something that holds up.
If you have an appeal process.
Makes
you have a
sense.
board you take it to, you have a waiver request, and you can appeal it either way if you're adjacent to the request.
I don't disagree with that at all. I'm concerned of whether or not that's too restrictive
Too restrictive.
on who can appeal a decision.
You think just anybody should?
I don't know. I don't know that I'm convinced of that either, but,
You wanna think on it?
mm-hmm,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm gonna look up some.
And then the timing of an appeal, let me jot this down.
So if I don't like the sign at Anderson's, because I drive by it, I can appeal it.
No,
I don't know.
it has to have been, it has to have been an issue that the Board of Zoning
Recently.
hears
Right.
a decision.
What we said is their sign got knocked down, and they can build a new sign, but I don't like that new sign, it's in my line of sight.
No, you can't do that. No.
But that's what we're saying is.
I know, I get it.
I don't argue with lawyers, some of those are lawyers, I know better.
The
I would
timing,
agree if you're right.
the timing, the timing of it, we need to figure out. Does it have to be, does an appeal have to be filed at City Hall
I think within 30 days of any
30
variance.
days.
of the decision?
Yes, of any variance decision. Yeah. I think 30 days is adequate. So,
And how is it filed? How is it, the appeal lodged at City Hall? Is there gonna be a form for that?
yeah, there'll have to be a form, appeal form,
Application process.
appeal application.
And then do they have to provide notice, once again, that it has been appealed so that any interested parties can show up
Yeah.
in the same manner as it was before?
If you're gonna appeal a decision by the Board of Zoning Adjustment, then yeah, if you're the person appealing it, you've gotta do public notice to everybody, just like.
The same way you did when you first made the application? Okay.
I think so.
There has to be some notice given.
I don't think you can just say, I'm gonna appeal it, and don't give any notice. Because if you had a decision that was made, you didn't like it, and your neighbors all think it's done deal,
Yep.
and then you go to the council doesn't know that, and they approve it, well,
We need to have
But
something.
you can't, somebody doesn't show up to the meeting, but then gets pissed off about the decision and says, I now want to appeal it. You all are saying they should not be entitled to do it. So,
they got notice, they didn't go to the meeting.
so do you have to file a formal objection before the variance hearing? To preserve your position? I mean, there's all kinds of these things. Is there gonna be the minutes? No knock on Gina, but it may miss a name of somebody that was there, and then all of a sudden the question we get to City Hall, well, you weren't there. You don't have a right to be appealed at this point in
We
time.
have cameras in every single one of our meetings now. So we can pull the video and look at it and see who was there.
I don't think that they need to be there to appeal. I think you're on vacation and, you know, you don't want to change plans just because there's this variance process.
Yeah, but if you've been noticed and you're going to vacation, I would think that you'd send somebody in your place.
Is that big of a deal?
Yeah, you send somebody in your place to discuss why you don't want this to move forward.
But can you do that?
Yeah, why not?
Because you're not the one,
If it's
that's not the
important-
person making the.
If it's important
Yeah,
to
you
them,
go hire your
they'll
lawyer
be
and have your
there.
lawyer show
Yeah, I
up.
mean, you can have your lawyer do it, but I don't think it should be just any Joe Blow off the street.
Well, if they're there making a statement on behalf of a landowner because landowner is unavailable, I think we ought to at least
How do
listen
you
to
know they
that.
are?
Huh?
How do you know they're really
Well, I think
making
you
a
get
statement on
someone
behalf of the
paper,
landowner?
ready to take this to the.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. These were thoughts that were crossing my mind as I was drafting it. I wanted y'all to talk about it. All right.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
Randall,
The only reason I say that is because, I mean, it's bound to happen eventually, I promise you. Somebody will come in here and say that they're making a statement on behalf of that person. And they may not have ever talked to that person, they just.
But
want the
they're
citizens out.
eventually gonna have to have that person present.
That's why I say.
They have to be.
is that big of a deal to do this work? And if they're gonna be out
Yeah,
in the
certified,
they say, now, it would be reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, you can ask him, there's all kinds of people out there.
No, it's true.
But in there also, though, we need to say that the people cannot act on approval to the variance until the 30-day window for.
All right,
Open the envelopes.
let's get these bids out. I want to see what they are.
How many do we have? Three?
We have two. We did have a third for the concrete slab. That was the only thing he bid on,
Oh.
which we were like, yeah, that's not the project. So, all right, this one is from Wayne Ford, WFC. And it is total proposed estimate $385,190.
No. We have that, but no.
And then we have the one from Ozark Ag, who was the company that got us our drawings. Their bid is for $293,000.
Spending.
Winner.
Price is right.
Price is right.
All right, so on down. We will proceed to enter into a contract with Ozark Ag
After next week.
at next month's meeting, right? Okay. So I'll let them know.
And if they've got a contract that they want to send,
I'll ask him.
yeah. If not, we'll do another one. So,
How long is that contract open for? The one we accept, it's a 30-day?
Most of them are.
Make sure it fits within the time you got to get it in.
say, but I'm sure they're fine for 30 days.
If they won't hold it,
Yeah.
then worst case scenario, y'all can schedule a special session. Just contract if you need to.
I'm sure.
But we cannot get a contract signed until y'all
Reconvene.
have a resolution adopted, so.
Probably just
Reach out to them.
reach out and
I'll reach
call.
out to them
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Tell them what we have to do and make sure that timeframe works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll be fine. Either one, I'm sure. he will. So, okay. All right. Great news. Under what I was,
Well, I think that bid was probably done before the, steel prices went up last week. Terrible thing that hit.
no, he turned this bid in today, so he knows what the steel prices are. So, okay,
Could I make a request?
yeah.
Would it be possible to take a break from the resolutions and talk about the community day really quick?
Cause she ready to go home.
Like an hour ago.
Absolutely. Lynn.
Yes.
So,
Moving on to new business item E, our
Thank you.
community day.
So the Activities Committee is working in conjunction with the staff at City Hall to do a fun community day the day before the 4th of July, and it will be during the farmer's market. And so we are just reaching out to make sure the council is on board with that. We plan on having a bounce house there. John Koger is bringing his train over. We're gonna then have extra vendors at the farmer's market. Pedal Pops is coming, and we're gonna have hamburgers. Meat is donated by Russell. We're going to be picking up hot dogs and all the condiments that go with that, and the chips and the drinks. And am I leaving anything out, Abby, that you can think of?
We have reached out to quite a few like community groups too. I've got a local vet clinic that'll come out and kind of spread word about their business. We got for the farmer's market, we got a sponsorship from Philip Pool State Farm for $2,000, and part of his sponsorship, he will also be at the farmer's market that day as well, to just, be there. And we'll also be inviting all of the community groups at the EHC, the Goshen Riding Club, Fire Department, Police Department, Arbor Board, Parks and Rec. They'll all be invited to have a place as well, just like they did last year. So, and of course, all of you are welcome to join us as well.
We have music and decorations and all that fun stuff if the council approves that event.
And free food.
Yes.
And free food.
I think it's great. Thank you for doing it again.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're approved.
Now you go.
Now you stay.
We love seeing you.
Now you can go home and see Max.
I know he's been
We're gonna get through this. NEC, let's get our contract
Let's see here.
approved for NEC. It
NEC
is
was
the bid for the RDOT project. That was the,
The lesser one.
yep. Brian and I both read through the bid. It's pretty standard, similar to the other ones that we've seen with Crafton and Toll.
Total price, $313,744. In budget.
Yep.
Within budget.
I'm making a motion to approve the resolution.
We gotta read it.
Get a reading title.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion and second.
Hold up for the people out there.
It's ready for a voice vote.
Was motion and a second?
To read it.
Oh,
To read
there
it
you go.
title.
Motion and a second to read title only. Resolution authorizing mayor to contract the NEC.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye. Resolution authorizing mayor to contract with NEC Inc.
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the resolution in a second. Any public comment before we vote? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so carried. Now we have a resolution authorizing M&M excavation contract. M&M is the company doing the culverts.
Right. Make a motion to read the resolution in title only.
Second.
All right, Any public comment before we vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Resolution authorizing mayor to contract with M&M Excavating.
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Motion is second. Any public comment before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
That was pretty much too, correct?
It is, it's 133 something. Let's see. Now we have the ordinance amending ordinance 171, the organizational chart. And it did get revised. It is.
How critical is this new organizational chart?
How critical.
Yes, for you all, at City Hall right now. The reason I ask that, I mean, you know, I'd advise you all, let's read these at separate meetings, let's do things as best we can so we can work our way through this. I don't know if this is one where you all need to have it adopted now. I'm just bringing that up for.
You need to not do the emergency clause.
Well, y'all could waive the rules on this, suspend the rules, waive the second and third reading if you wanted to. Go ahead and vote on this, adopt it tonight. I don't know if it's that critical to do that. Just bringing it up.
I don't know that it's critical.
It just keeps less off the agenda for the next 3 months.
Yeah. That's the
Well,
only.
I mean, we're here this late.
I mean,
anyway.
this isn't correct anyhow.
I don't know.
What do you mean it's not correct?
Not correct.
Which part of it?
In which part? Because I thought it was corrected.
Yeah, I think they made all the changes.
The only
Exhibit
thing,
A.
the only thing that needed to be changed was
It's in the ordinance.
You saying there should be an arrow between city council and recorder treasurer?
Correct.
What's up?
No, I don't know. The recorder treasurer is elected
She's
and
elected
operates
official.
independently of.
She answers to the citizens.
Yeah.
Tell me where you're
I,
thinking.
in an ordinance. I don't
I mean, you all have adopted some ordinances at different times to separate the two positions, but it's no longer it's combined, which is allowed.
That's correct.
That's our ordinance, but that's just establishing that issue. It's not, there's no oversight. Yeah, I think that's
It's been a while.
Well, we can just do the first reading tonight.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So,
All right, I'll make a motion to read in title only for the first reading.
so,
So the motion and a second. Any public comment before we vote? All right, roll call vote.
Holly Anderson.
Yes.
No.
Curtis Vaughn.
Yes.
John Valencourt.
Yes.
Bert Wright.
yes. An ordinance amending ordinance number 171, which formalized the administrative framework of the city of Goshen, Arkansas, and for other purposes.
Make a motion to, well,
Any discussion?
any discussion?
My only issue with this is the lines that go to the city attorney, planning commission, parks commission, and the harbor board. So I think those are poured under the city council. I think we would want to keep those branches of government separate on paper.
But
You do
in order
appoint them, but I don't
Correct.
think that you direct their work. And I think this is an organizational chart, which is showing, who's directing the work.
Well, now I do receive direction from both the council and the mayor.
So you might be okay.
So would a dotted line alleviate that concern?
On the other three on the commission?
Parks and.
I think so, yeah.
So dotted line on the others. That's fine.
annexation. It goes away from.
Except that stays.
Right.
Anything else? Further reading?
Motion to approve the first reading?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any public comment before we vote? All right, roll call vote.
Holly Anderson.
Yes.
Cole Martin.
Yes.
Curtis Vaughn.
Oh, yes.
John Valencourt.
Yes.
Bird Wright.
Yes.
All right. So we had our first reading. We can move on to new business. Stratford Crown annexation has finally been approved by the county. So it's time for you guys to vote.
Do we have those documents somewhere?
It should be in your packet.
Are they,
No, they're not.
are they,
Right here.
oh, they weren't in the packet that was emailed
The,
out.
I think it is in there. Stratford
the
Crown Goshen.
stuff from
annexation.
Washington County wasn't in
Well, and the one that was emailed out?
Yeah. This.
there. This is it.
Yeah.
They're all printed in the binders, but
That's not a,
There's a letter in there,
It's a letter from the
okay.
state.
That's it.
It's the letter from the judge and the letter from the Washington County Court. I didn't see them in what was sent. That's from the state.
I mean, we got the stuff from the state, but I didn't see anything that was directly from the county.
I didn't either.
Do you want me to pull up my text messages with the judge and Russell
I,
Hill?
Again,
let me just,
legality wise,
Is there a map with that so that we know?
this is what,
state has a map.
Just,
So we know
Yeah, but
what.
this is
why don't y'all just read this?
Yeah, this one.
okay, just do a reading?
Yeah,
Okay,
we can,
I'll make a motion to, read in title only
second,
it's an ordinance.
for the first reading. Or no,
Yep.
yeah, for the first reading.
So, who seconded?
John.
Okay, so the motion and a second, any public comment before we vote? All right, roll call vote.
Holly Anderson.
Yes.
Cole Martin.
Yes.
Curtis Vaughn.
yes,
John Valencourt.
yes,
Bird Wright.
Yes.
An ordinance accepting the annexation of certain territory to the city of Goshen, approving the schedule of services to be extended to said area and assigning such area to a ward.
So we could just do this for a first reading and then get the rest of the information.
yeah.
The actual, I don't know if it's on the thumb drive or not.
I didn't see it.
It's on the state, I was mistaken. It's on the
Okay,
map.
okay.
Oh, here it
So
is.
it's the same thing that we
It's right here.
received.
Yeah, that's just the state, that's,
That's what I saw. There's a state letter, there's a map from the state, and nothing from the county.
okay.
On the map, it's
So,
probably-
if we can
So I
have-
need to get the letter from the county and include it in the packet for next month?
It says that you need a letter from the county judge,
Judge Deacons, yeah.
and
This is
something
accurate
from the,
stuff from here.
That's,
Is that questionable?
no, that, it is, but it's the most current.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
All I see is
Yeah.
something from the county saying they're cool with it.
That's fine. I can make
Yeah.
sure you guys have it for next
And-
meeting, since we're just doing the first reading.
yeah, I can email you this link here that does include all of the details.
I just gave it.
I'll just keep this.
All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the first reading.
So,
All right, with motion and second, any public comment before we vote? All right, roll call vote.
Holly Anderson.
Yes.
Cole Martin.
Yes.
Curtis Vaughn.
Yes.
John Valencourt.
Yes.
Bird Wright.
yes.
All right, so first reading's done. So we can't do a resolution until that's actually
Motion to table.
For the day for her appointment to her official appointment. Just table it. Okay,
We
that's fine.
can't until,
Oh, she's part of the,
She's
okay.
part of the annexation.
Yeah, that's correct.
yeah, she's,
So we'll just table item B. So anybody want to?
That's why I made a motion to table.
Oh, okay, so we have a motion. Second, to table it. All those in favor?
I,
Alright. That's the motion to table the resolution appointing Dave Crown to the Parks Commission. All right, resolution authorizing Boston Mountain Solid Waste permanent proxy. This is a request by me because I can't attend all of the meetings, and I have to fill out a proxy form every single time if I'm gonna miss, and I'm wanting Abby to be my proxy for those meetings.
Make a motion to read the resolution in title only.
Second.
Uh,
Sounds exciting.
All right, so the motion and a second. Any public comment?
I have a sparkling attitude about it.
All right, all those in favor?
I,
A resolution to appoint a representative to the Boston Mountain Solid Waste District Board for the city of Goshen, Arkansas.
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
second.
So we have a motion and a second. Public comment before we vote. Hearing none. All those in favor?
I,
All right, so carried. Thank you, Abby.
You're
Thanks to the
welcome.
council for
did you got it, boots on?
General fund budget amendment. I need to make that official, so.
I'll make a motion to accept the amended budget as presented earlier.
No. Read the resolution.
The budget's an attachment.
Oh, it's in the
It's a
yeah.
resolution.
So moved.
Yeah.
Just the title.
Title only.
So we have a motion and a second to read in title only the resolution adopting the revised 2025 general fund budget. All those in favor? All right.
Resolution adopting revised 2025 general fund budget.
Who seconded, please?
It was
Bert.
down here.
No,
made the
no,
motion.
Bert
I
made
did.
the motion. Thank you.
Make a motion to approve the resolution adopting the revised budget.
Second.
Gotcha.
All right. Any public comment before they vote? All those in favor?
All right.
Okay.
Good job, Jerry.
All right. Any further reports by alderman, reporter treasurer, city staff? Here we go.
Let's go home.
Any public comment?
Motion adjourned.
All right.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Oh, man.
My total.
One another.
That's exactly what I'm doing.